本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。
What's good, Internet? It is Friday, May 28th, and you are listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 400. Thank you, Patrick.
400! An achievement the likes of which the world has never seen.
There's a lot of comedy here, because we recorded a different version of this intro when we started this podcast 18 hours ago. And no, I said 400, and it was dead silent. Nothing. And I complained.
I came in with a horn, like a solid 3 beats later.
Yeah,
absolutely. I was like, what the fuck is Patrick doing? What was that noise Patrick made? I still don't know that it sounds much like a horn.
Well, thank you, Patrick, for bringing us here. That was Rob, that was Patrick, that was Cado. Before we get into anything else, so 400 is a lot of episodes, and I mean, obviously we've done more like 580 episodes or something. Cado
and we've planned that episode 400.
We always planned this.
This was
all according to plan.
Just fucking Ozymandias out here making plans.
You think I'm one of your Republic serial villains?
Including every time we would do a podcast that was not numbered specifically
to lead to this moment. This is kind of fun.
I launched a direct-to-consumer pivot for Waypoint 20 minutes ago. Hang on, let me just check the URL. I'm not sure.
You didn't.
I need to check. Hold on, you guys. I need to see if this is live.
Does the left hand know what the right hand is doing? No. Does it matter because they both doing the right things anyway? Yes. Yeah. Here we go, episode 400. For literal years, people have been asking us, why don't you just let us give you money? We like the podcast. We like it when you stream. We like the articles. Can we give you money? And what we have said, we've looked down on them and whispered, no. They won't let us.
And in reality, an executive advice looked down on them and whispered, we don't know how to do that.
We don't know how to do that. And so, thanks to Jason Kebler from Motherboard, Jason Kebler was like, yeah, you just go over there. Here, I figured this out for this newsletter we do called The Mail.
You guys want to do this?
You guys want to do this? Hey, there were some people who said no to letting you do this, and they're not here anymore. Magic Johnson voice, they ain't gonna be here. We could do it when they're not here. We could just sneak it through. We didn't sneak. Well, I would say there was an opportune moment, and we said, yes, let's jump on it while the fire is hot. Let me just get out of the way.
WaypointPlus.memberful.com/join.
Waypoint Plus is where you can go to subscribe to bonus content from us here at Waypoint. Bonus episodes of shows we used to do, like Waypoint 101. Do you remember when we used to play games that were exciting to us even though they weren't new releases and we got to talk about them? What if we did that? And also Patrick got to like interview some people on the side to do some like extra contextual work to it.
Maybe we commissioned an essay for it to go on the site that was related to the podcast that we do talking about it.
Yes. Do you remember when we used to do waypoints and talk about stuff in pop culture? But what if we did like a more reasonable version of that was like didn't take up as much time? So that we can
slowly corrupt it
coming
over
back.
time.
Not the way you remember it. It's a bit like a doppelganger waypoints that might make you uneasy with a sense of uncanny familiarity, but it's better for us because it won't become so crushingly burdensome, and there's a business model to support it now that we can stick with it and have those fun conversations without maybe waypointing it to death.
It'll be bigger than the original Waypoints, which was the like 10-minute segment where we all talked really fast at the end of a podcast, but smaller than the how did this turn into a 3-hour Waypoints episode?
7 parts.
7, right, exactly. Do you remember when we used to stream? Well, this is going to let us. Okay, so those 2 things I just said, those are subscription bonuses. Those podcasts are subscription bonuses. $5 a month. You'll get bonus podcast content every week in the month that you're subscribed. Some stuff though, like Waypoint has never been just like, we want to only take money from people and those people get the stuff. And that model of subscription didn't really make sense to us. And also like when you do, for instance, live streams, you want a lot of people to be able to come through and hang out and watch that stuff. We know that people are invested in, for instance, Tactical Tuesdays is a thing. I'd like to play some more XCOM with you, Rob. And so we're committing to a couple of streams a month right now. that number goes up the more people subscribe because we can justify doing live streams, which frankly are not very profitable. But when we can say, look, all these people are giving us money so that they can watch us stream live or watch VODs, even if you don't necessarily personally do that, we can point to your subscription fee and say, look, they knew that videos were coming. It lets us do those live streams again.
Yeah, like the argument was always, yeah, your community's nice and all, but it doesn't really like justify the time you're spending on that.
Yeah.
What we really need is another article that is going to appear in Google search results and 1 billion people are going to click on, possibly because it makes them angry. And we were like, what if we just did something that people
at
found
you,
fun?
By the way, angry at you. Yeah, exactly, Rob. Exactly. And so, yeah, this enables us to do more of that stuff. And long term, as it grows, hopefully, if it grows, maybe it falls apart. Like everything we do here in the world, it's conditional. It's who could say if something succeeds or fails? I have confidence in us because y'all have been such a strong community for so long that I'm confident. But who knows? Maybe 6 months from now we look back at it and go, like, that was a really fun experiment. Thanks for helping us try it. We just didn't hit the numbers. I would like that not to be the case. And the only way that can happen is for us to keep making cool stuff, for y'all to help us make cool stuff by going to vice.com/waypoint plus. Are there any other? Oh, here's one that I'm just
this will unlock us. Oh, go ahead.
You go ahead. What are you going to say?
This unlock. Well, I guess now we can say we're going to get together.
Yeah. Because of this, you and Rob get to come down for E3 coverage in a couple of weeks. And we're doing a big multi-day live stream thing. I don't know what we'll do during that time, but
it is starting to fill.
Yeah,
like there are going to be things. But we don't.
We got to book it.
Really just
we got to figure out. Yeah,
for 3 days to get together. Like we're not doing like all nighters. We haven't exactly figured out the hours, but like for 3 days, like during the day, we're gonna get together and like use E3 or lack of E3 to be a justification to get together and try out some of these segments. Talk to you about Waypoint Plus. Like look at trailers, like do the whole, we haven't seen each other for a year and a half, and
I'm very
do that
excited.
thing in person as a part of this.
Now, I was going to say one more plus that we're unlocking. We're unlocking the full power of an operational battle station known as Cado. As Cado gets to come back full time.
Great. I'm the Death Star over here. I'm ready to fucking blow up Alderaan, and Alderaan is making more streams.
I guess so.
I don't know. They're not you got away from me.
Yeah, well, like, so Cado, you came on originally as a social editor for us. You became our producer, and then you became a producer writ large as you started working on stuff like Cyber for Motherboard. And now it's like, hey, let's use Cado's enthusiasm for video games here as like helping us develop these shows, helping us edit these shows, managing the live stream stuff, which you did such a good job at, dude, during like the last Save Point stream where you kind of like were the not just like helping us host it literally, but also being the router through which it all went through was incredibly good. And like having a whole setup for us to remotely stream but keep all of the stream stuff going. So like you were the key to that. I'm happy to have you back full time on Waypoint stuff.
Very excited.
That's
very excited.
I bet. So am I. So that's exciting.
No ill will towards Cyber. That's a great show.
No, totally.
It'll be good to be back in my zone. My video game zone, my gaming zone.
We let him back in his zone. And then there'll be some other stuff to come, right? We have ideas for fun little things like that we have to look into still and figure out. I will say this is a beta period in some ways. Expect the full launch in a month or around E3 or something.
This was the thing. Like I was gonna say, like as you were talking, I was like, there's so many asterisks popping up in my head because I'm like, I sure hope this all works. Like, I think that URL is that URL's set, right?
Yes.
Sure. This page is going to work, right?
Yeah.
It'll take your money, right? And I'm like, I think so.
Yeah.
We think so. If there are issues, we are in the beta period. Let us know.
So we can adjust.
We haven't tested the functionality of this. We haven't done the, the dog fooding.
We haven't kicked.
Yeah.
Dog fooding? I don't know this term.
This is a term I got from visual novel Eliza about software development. Dog fooding, where you like
eating your own dog food.
Yeah, you check out how it works. We haven't done that yet because this is coming in so hot that like the site just turned on, and I'm not sure it's all the way on.
Right. We'll see. It turned on during this podcast. we got the notification live, so we're here. There'll also be some more stuff that's community focused. Shout outs to the mods who've been great at keeping the Waypoint community alive after Waypoint as a name disappeared. Waypoint came back as a name, and all the while the Waypoint community, kept on its its core motivation, its core character continued on under the shepherding of the mods across the Discord and the forum. There will be some sort of community integration. There should be a place probably on the forums to talk about the Waypoint Plus content with other users and stuff like that. We don't want to. I never want to create a community that is like the haves and the have-nots and like the line between in that way. So I don't really want to lean into like special colors on the Discord or something. But we might do something with Form Flare. We might have like little icons or something. We'll see. A lot of this will end up being like in conversation with the people who join the service and who want to be part of it, because we want to
none of this is stuff we would have done otherwise. Like quite literally.
Yeah, we
would not have time, the resource justification, the changing internally of like what metrics are we judged in terms of being a success. Like that stuff all shifts with this to give us the latitude to at least try this experiment. Yeah. So like just in the spirit of the have, trying to chafe against the notion of have and have nots, like it is quite literally something that would not exist, will not exist unless people support it. And that's, if it doesn't work out, hey, we gave it a shot. That's fun. But like, it is not the case. Like there's a different world where like without this switch flipped, like we're doing any of those things. Like that's just not the case.
Yeah. And in fact, there are other things that are like, in some ways, we talk about the power of collective action and stuff here, but like as this becomes more and more of what we're judged on, if like, hey, this growth is really good, there are other knock-on effects that are a little more indistinct. They're intangible in the way of like like Rob said before, there are articles we won't feel the need to write because we instead greenlighting or maybe it's the other way. We'll have the leeway to greenlight articles that are a little bit more risky in terms of what their readership could be, because we think that you're interested in it. Even though what we a year ago would be doing is greenlighting stuff that we need to hit as wide as possible. That doesn't mean that there won't be as wide as possible articles on the website still. Motherboard still has goals, right? Like that stuff still exists to some degree at least. But there is a degree of like earning a wiggle a little bit. And there will be other ways in which the site gets to be the site in a different form. If you want to hear more about the process that got us here, and also some annoying posts on Reddit and Nextdoor and Quora. What else? Like talk about?
And a much like if you've listened to us talk eloquently, hopefully about Biomutant, do you want to hear me just coming in hot?
Yeah,
some hot takes.
Some hot takes. You can go again to
waypointplus.memberful.com/join.
I'm also going to set up waypoint.zone/subscribe. But for now,
waypointplus.memberful.com/join,
which will take you to the subscription feed. And the first thing in that feed will be a Waypoint After Dark, which is a new show we're testing, which is Waypoint After Dark. That's a horn.
It's kind of like
we just
hot mic mornings, but more.
It's kind of like hot mic mornings.
More alcohol, less coffee. Yeah,
I think I had a beer during that. It won't always be alcohol related because people are allowed to talk at night without drinking.
Yeah, it's just
this first episode.
Top button unbuttoned. You know what I mean? A little more loungy, a little more relaxed, a little more in the cut, a little more real in that way. And so we did a long episode about the arc that got us here, and more of our thinking into what the philosophy behind it will be. A little more sober in actual some ways, because like having flipped it has given me a buzz. The switch being flipped has made me more excited than I was when we recorded that a week ago. When in the back of my brain, I was like, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'll do this podcast. I'm excited about it, but it could all fall apart at any point. So yeah, thank you again for your support. It means the world for us that y'all have been like, repping us for so long. We hope that you'll join us on this journey. I make this appeal in that Waypoint After Dark episode, but like the higher ups at Vice, not Jason, above Jason, and even above Jason, there are people who are like, well, I wonder if they could hit X number. And I want to hit X plus some. I want to hit that number. I want to crush that number. And I think that we can. I think that people, it's like, it's hard to communicate what the positive vibes have been from y'all for so long. and for people in business suits to understand that outside of looking at raw numbers. And so I would love to just like hit
the charity streams have been one window into that.
Yes.
Like has always been like there's always a company-wide email that goes out that's like, so those weird
do you remember Waypoint?
Do we still have that what do we call I don't know. They raised like $100,000. We don't really understand what for or how, but we're now forced to send a company-wide email saying they did a good job.
Yes, exactly. So outside of that, it's been rare that we can convince them that the things we do here are valuable in that way, because it just doesn't quantify in terms that they understand. And so if we can just blow their expectations out of the water, it would be really rad. Which is, this is kind of a very direct, bald-faced appeal. What pride? Leaving it at the door, I'm here. I'm here and nakedly asking you for financial support to let us do cool shit.
Well, and I make this point on the After Dark, but I guess that's, a pod that you'll get as you, if you choose to subscribe. But like the point I want to make is that like one reason we felt awkward when we did like Twitch streams, we turned on like subs, was like, people were like, so will this help you? Is this like is this where I could throw the $5 and you get to do more stuff? And I was like, not.
Back then really? The answer was nothing helps us.
But like we didn't
do what you want. It won't matter. And that's the reality that we're living through too. But now.
But it's true. Like it was hard to get fully invested in that because we couldn't, even if there was 100 subscribers, 500 subscribers, 1,000 subscribers, there was no guarantee that unlocked any sort of like latitude of editorial independence or movement. And like the whole point behind this, we're like, Rob, I've had specific meetings where like Rob's time is going to be different and spent differently, where expectations with management and like executives are like judged differently because we're putting our time into this. And like, this is a thing where, no, subscribing to this does not necessarily like go into our pockets, but in the general sense of like literally as we hit milestones along the way, it will quite literally free up our editorial independence to do. And I should also say like, I get to do a lot of what I want. Like, I don't want to make it sound like completely like, like shackly. Like we get a lot of freedom working with Emmanuel and Jason to do a lot of cool stuff. But in like the old ass, original Waypoint, like a lot of that stuff that people fell in love with, this quite literally financially can unlock the ability to do more of that stuff. And if it goes behind our wildest dreams, then you start thinking about being able to hire folks in that
other stuff. Exactly.
But we'll get there as we get there.
Waypoint Plus.
WaypointPlus.memberful.com/join.
Please give us your support. Again, as open as I can be.
He's just a podcast host standing in front of an audience.
Yeah, with a hat
asking
in my hand.
them to love her and please subscribe at
WaypointPlus.memberful.com/join.
Thank you. So that said, how's everyone doing? How's everyone's week been? How are the vibes in the room?
Earlier I had no answer to this because I was like panickedly trying to get this thing off the ground.
It's a Waypoint-like solution that we've arrived at, isn't it? That's how it feels. Patrick, how about you?
See, I'm great. But I already told my good story. I was like, I slept till 7:10 this morning.
Yeah,
like both children didn't bother me. I woke up naturally as I begin my 6-day solo dad stretch. So I'm great. Like I'm good. Like if I made it to that in the morning, everything else is gravy.
Everything
at this
else
point.
is great. Yeah, sure, totally.
I wish I was a DragonQuest fan. They seemed very excited last night.
So yeah, what happened with DragonQuest last night? I missed all this.
Six announcements. 6 announcements. I don't know if I can, let's see if I can rattle all 6 off the top of my head. So there was an expansion to Dragon Quest 10, right? At the online, the MMO that has never come out here. And it was very funny because they were doing a simulcast stream as opposed to what Nintendo or other Japanese companies will often do, which is like, hey, stream for the the Japanese or like Asian audience, and then stream for outside of that, given that some things may not be coming or come much later, yada yada yada. But so they did a simulcast stream, and people really wanted them to bring out the MMO because apparently it's like pretty decent and good. Yeah. And they've teased it a couple of times. They're like,
it's maybe very cute.
Yeah, and I've heard positive things like over the years that it's like got some of the best storytelling in that series. You know, not that series is like necessarily like known for that, but I've heard like some of the best stuff that happens there. Anyway, long story short, they're showing all these people like, this is it. This is gonna finally, like, now is the time for this to come out in English. And then, like, right as they're announcing, like, oh, we're working to get this out to you as soon as possible, like, text pops up in the corner that says like, because I made a joke about it last night. There was a specific phrase that everyone was using was, there are no plans for a worldwide release. Nobody said that. It's just text in the corner.
Heartbreak City. That's rough.
And then the second announcement, I believe, was DragonQuest offline. So hey, you just want to play the story, not deal with that. This is like a separate.
That's the version they should just bring over.
That's what people thought. They're like, oh, okay, this was just kind of like a curveball, like a jokey joke. And it's like, no, like still not coming over.
Fuck.
And then they announced was Dragon Quest Treasures, which was like a kid-oriented one that's coming from, I forget the designer, but like it seemed fine. The one that like people were really hyped for was they're essentially doing the Octopath Traveler aesthetic. I don't know if they're using the engine or not. I didn't see enough details on that to see if they're actually. It looks a little distinct
from that to me, so I think it's probably a different. I don't know. Maybe it is. It's HD2D. It does say HD2D,
right? Which is the phrase that Square has used for Octopath, and yeah, they're applying that sort of aesthetic approach of like. I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess HD2D, but it's kind of. I guess it's hard to articulate exactly what that. It's all it's all sprites.
It's all sprite characters, and then it's a polygonal world. But the polygonal world also has texturing that makes it look like 2D spaces. A lot of it.
It's
not
really
all
neat.
of it.
Once you look at that, imagine a slime is in it. It looks great.
This looks better than I think the previous 2D HD stuff.
Well, and also because I think I like the art better, right? Like
that's and I think that the art just works for. I think that the art is like it's not in the old school Final Fantasy design. It looks like old school Dragon Quest art, and it really does. Like they kept the slime looking like the slime.
Do you know what I mean? I think it's actually
very bright.
I think
and
a huge
colorful.
part of it is that the colors really pop. And whereas like Octopath is a little more. It's not like grimdark.
It's a little muddier. It's meant to be.
It's muddier. It's browner.
It's supposed to feel like that. And yeah, this is bright. And I haven't checked back in on Dragon Quest 11 in a few. I guess like a month and a half now. I'm like 40 hours into that game and want to go back to it. I like kind of hit like a good breaking point. I was like, I'm gonna take a break for now. But that really made me excited to be someone who falls in love with Dragon Quest. So I'll play this. This is exciting. And this drops, I'll have an excuse to play it, and I'll play a lot of it probably.
Well, and I think a lot of people, myself included.
Wait, was this given a date for this was
said?
Release?
They didn't say a date, but they said it will be on it simultaneous. It's going to come out everywhere.
Cool.
And I'm sure it'll be on like every platform imaginable.
Right.
And actually,
probably. I'll play it on Switch though. That's where I would like to play it. So
probably on Switch, and Microsoft seems to be interested in like making like that and Final Fantasy a franchise that is like on Game Pass a lot. Like I wouldn't be shocked if that game just popped on Game Pass immediately as a way of like broadening the audience of that franchise. Anyway, like I don't care for Dragon Quest whatsoever, which is that's just I grew up on Final Fantasy, and like that became like my main line. And like everything under the Square umbrella, like give me like you want a Chrono Trigger sequel or even just a remake in that style, like that. Like I would love for them if they're going to revisit. I'm never going to get my Final Fantasy 6/3 like remake. Like I'm just never. It's never going to get that treatment like Final Fantasy 7 style. But playing Final Fantasy 6 with the 2D HD would be fucking awesome. And so I hope Square adopts that as sort of like their way of revisiting older games, because their other ways of releasing those games have been bad. Like if you've looked at like people have to go and fix Square's re-releases on places like Steam, where they've done like mobile ports of Final Fantasy VI that they then put on the PC, and the fonts are terrible. I don't know the state of that stuff these days, but I know generally Square has done a bad job. So I hope they do that with the rest of their work. And then I think I'm missing one, but whatever. The last big one was the new proper Dragon Quest. So 12, is that where we're at now? That's
12 would be the new one.
I don't know. I forget the Winds of Fate, something like that. It had a fire logo.
The flames.
The Flames of
Fate.
All right, there we go. That makes more sense with the fire. And they like said something very specific that I will be super curious to see what they actually be. They said, we're making a Dragon Quest for adults. I was like, okay. What is What does that mean? They said they're still going to have the turn-based, like classic combat, with some changes, but it, you know, I feel like once you drop that phrasing, you are suggesting to the audience that they should buckle up, that something about it might be
I'm really curious what that means, because I so much of what makes I think you can do it. I just hope that they don't. There is something.
I guess I just don't know what it means. Like, tonally, like we're just not going to be like goofy adventures fighting a big wizard that's trying to defeat the world.
I mean, the thing is, like, it's not that DragonQuest hasn't done
right
stories that also do deal with like generational drama and their history. It's not like they've never touched bigger.
They're just less melodramatic and less character driven.
Right. Yes. Correct. It's a warm experience, even if it's a dangerous one or something. And so I hope that they don't trade that bit away. Who knows what they mean? Also
they may say that, and all of a sudden it's still like a cutesy slime, but this time the slime's got a sword, or I don't know. I just think it was very funny.
It's funny
because the trailer was sort of like dark, like the flames were it wasn't whimsical.
And, true.
But I don't, and if you look at the the trailer for the new Final Fantasy, that one also has like a sort of darker aesthetic. So
it's very funny. I'm reading Berserk right now, because Miura, who's the author and artist of it, recently passed. And I've never read it, and I'm like I'm like more than halfway through it, like overnight, basically. And imagining some of the truly, truly dark shit in that game, but in that manga series, but in a Akira Toriyama style, is just very stupid to me. And my brain is conjuring some very gruesome images, but everyone has big googly eyes and Goku hair, and it's very funny. Anyway,
DragonQuest cross. Berserk.
Let's go. That's right. I don't think Akira Toriyama has ever made anyone as pretty or evil as Griffith, unfortunately. So anyway, can we talk about Biomutant?
Sure. I briefly gave it came up, Austin, earlier this
last week. Yeah, earlier this week, right.
Yeah, and I mentioned, I think Austin's gonna have a lot more thoughts. I don't want to speak for him. I know he's got some real problems with the narrative. I played 90 minutes, and then he played like 6 hours. And
I'm at 8 hours now.
I'm getting there. And that communicated to me, I don't need to do this. Like, you've got this. I can be your context clue in the conversation to to talk about Biomutant. And we seemed like we were at a place where we're good. Like, we don't need to touch this game again. The reviews came out, kind of reaffirmed our general feelings on the game. Yeah. And then last night, I get an image from you that's like, it just says, I'm going back in. And it's just a screenshot of the title card for Biomutant. And my response is just, no. And you didn't respond. It's just like nothing.
I was busy playing Biomutant.
So tell me, before you get into
why.
Yeah, I want to start with the why, and then maybe that will lead us to...
Because discourse happened, and my footing was shaken.
Okay.
I was pretty sure I knew exactly what I was going to talk about with this game at the beginning of the week. And I didn't come on the first podcast of the week. I took a day to rest, recover, work on some other stuff, and recover from the hard work of podcasting about video games.
Hey, don't sell yourself short.
It's hard work. Yeah, no, it's work.
If you sell yourself short, then it's going to make all of our jobs harder.
You're right. You're right. True. The reviews for this game hit. And the reviews are mixed, right? Mixed to actually, they're not mixed. They're middling.
But I think the separation point is there were some people that took into more account. And this is like a weird part of like when you review a game is like, if you know this game was made by 20 people and you can recognize.
Which is also, that number's been going around and it's not right. They also worked with 40 other people who are not part of the core team. So yes, it's a small team. That's what I think. The way that we can talk about it, it's a smaller team than AAA.
All right, let's get away from the 20 number because the 20 number is the one that kept batting around.
That number is a weapon.
All right. Yeah. Yes. All right. But regardless, 60 people, even if you were like to say those were all full-timers for a game of the
I'm sure they're not.
That they're trying to do. And so I think you saw some people being like, well, it's cool to see an ambitious game not really work with a bunch of systems that aren't fully fleshed out. But I admire what they were trying to do. And if you like playing games that are like flawed ambition, like know that going into it and you might have a good time.
Defenders of the 7.0 in AVB's classic terminology.
I think people should play for sometimes academic and some to play a flawed game to sometimes better understand the games. There
are. I actually really believe this with every game, but I think around the 7.0 mark, again, to just completely steal this from AVB, there is a higher likelihood of something finding a niche where someone feels like a game is very special to them in that range. Or maybe not a higher, maybe the things that score 10, if you did some quantitative analysis, those games would more on the numbers resonate with people. But there is something special about that sort of like hidden gem that really touches you, and it doesn't hit a wide audience necessarily, or a wide audience actually shuns it, but for you it clicks for some reason. That's a true experience. I never want to invalidate that experience. Then that can happen to a game that gets really bad scores. You know what I mean? Like, again, go look at the way people feel about DragonQuest. That game did not review particularly well. There
was someone that recently, after we said we recorded our Resident Evil 8 spoiler cast, that added us to be like, hey, just want to ask up front, like, is there going to be like a ton of you guys dunking on like Resident Evil 6 in this? Because it gets really tiring to listen to people hate that game, and I love that game. And we're like, no, like I don't even think Resident Evil 6 comes up. It comes up
very briefly, only to joke about that Chris punched a boulder, or something.
Right? But I think that is like that. In some cases, it's a smaller game. In that case, it's a high profile game that was sort of universally derided, and that becomes a narrative that the game's bad. Nobody liked that.
Exactly.
Well, it turns out that's things are more complicated than that.
And so basically, Biomutant comes out. It reviews pretty poorly. I will point people to Dia's review over on Paste as an example of someone who I think gets at that game, what that game gets wrong. Big picture, what it is a open world action RPG where you play a furry, you play an anthropomorphized animal person, or he's an anthropomorphized animal, who's living in a post-apocalyptic, goop-covered, environmentally hazardous world. You're far enough away from whatever human world existed that like you kind of have your own societies. There are six or maybe it's 8 tribes that cut across this wilderness.
The humans left, I guess. I read that in one of the reviews they explained more of the backstory. Okay. That was like the humans like ruined the planet and said bye. And and the mess they left behind, mutated the existing. Right.
I got some of that stuff through some lore underground in one of the bunkers or whatever, but I think I may have missed the humans leaving bit, or maybe that just hadn't hit yet. The basic gameplay, and this is where a lot of these comparisons to larger games come, is similar in some ways. Like the loop, the broadest part of the loop is similar in some ways to a lot of other open world action games. You have a map, you get side quests, you go to places on the map to do those side quests. On the way, you might come across a gas station, a ruined gas station, and there's a boss, or like a mini boss outside, and he's part of a tribe you're fighting, or he's a bandit, and you fight him and his little goons, and then you go into the ruined gas station, and you pick through it, and you find crafting materials, and you use those crafting materials to upgrade your weapons and armor. Maybe you find some new armor, and wow, that's cool, and you end up looking like a goofball. Maybe one of the best parts of this game is that all the fashion, all the armor in the game is like all over the place, so you almost always look very funny through at least 8 hours of play, because you're just like, I don't know, I got this skirt on, I got this trucker cap, I got this jean jacket. Actually, that's kind of a vibe, it's kind of a look. But, all that, but then you also have like a radiation-proof vest on or something, right? And it's and a gas mask. And that part of it, I think that part of it's very good. In fact, I think the character creator, and then you get a point it kind of towards, around hour 5, I say, where I hit the point where I could also just create what my character looked like to someone. I could change their musculature and body shape, which was kind of a weird thing to say, but you could just do that about 5 hours in. I guess for me it was 5 hours. I found it like 5 hours in. And the combat and all that stuff feels pulled from various influences, or drawing on various influences, ranging from like Max Payne, because there's bullet time in this game, to like Devil May Cry. Except it's less rapid. There's there's a slower pace to how you have to attack. Anyway, all this stuff comes out. And when I first played this game, like I really dislike it. I think my initial messages to you, Patrick, about this game were like, oh, I was hyped for this coming in because there had been so much build up over the years at PAX. Year after year at PAX, people came to me and was like, did you play Biomutant? That game's kind of dope. And I was like,
and it is very pretty. Like it's very pretty. The world is gorgeous. I like the
landscapes
art.
Especially are really good. Yeah, the character design is really cool. But I had a few things that initially hit me really wrong, and I was like not having a good time in those first like 4 or 5 hours.
Did you know you could turn off the narrator?
You can't actually.
You can't. Someone told me you could.
You can turn him off for things he says in the world. He still does now. He still does dialogue narration the same.
Oh well,
way.
that's the actual problem.
That's the actual problem. I like him in the open world. So I'll talk about the narrator in a second. My point is, I had all of these things that I was like frustrated by, and I put the game down. And then the game scored so bad that you had people rushing to its defense and saying, "Hey, this is a little baby game. Don't treat it like it's like the new Ubisoft joint." To which I have two different feelings. One is, it's probably right to set expectations properly, but two, it's also probably good to scope your game according to what you have available to you. And so many of the issues here feel like scoping problems, especially with just how much of the game there is.
There's so many systems where it's like, if this just wasn't here, and instead you'd put all the resources, you know, if I'm just imagining like resources like a wand, you know,
which we know it isn't, but there are ways in which you prioritize for real. So.
But it does feel like it was like the game is a grab bag of ideas that if it had spent, you know, if half of those were given the full extent of like development and implementation and like being woven in with the you know everything that exists in the game, it would have made the whole thing stronger as opposed to a bunch of mech.
Like 2 hours into this game, and that mech feels mostly fine. I wish they didn't make that mech. Whatever time you spent on the mech, I wish you had spent on the core combat design, because that's mostly what I'm doing in that game, is fighting people, and it doesn't feel good. So the point is, I went back. I had a better time with these final few hours because certain systems, 6 hours into the game, 5 or 6 hours into the game, finally started to like develop enough that I could use them. Things like the crafting system, where you're taking all these bits and bobs that you've learned how to make and sticking them, or I guess you found the bits and bobs and you're spending crafting resources to attach them to your weapons and like rebuild your weapons. So if you have a gun, for instance, it has a grip, a stock, a receiver, which is like the main, what type of gun is it? Is it a shotgun? Is it a rifle? Is it a pistol? Whatever. A barrel, some additional, like a scope, a magazine, some additional add-ons, all of which sounds like I'm talking about a Call of Duty game, but you have to think about all of this in like a neon colored Mad Max world, right? Where it's like, and all the stuff is like, you know, my gun has a drill grip as the grip. You know, or my gun has there's like literally a big box of ammo stuck on the bottom as a magazine. Or likewise with all the armor stuff, you're attaching, you know, bits of a stop sign and giant safety pins and stuff like that as additional armor, because you're just a little guy. And so a lot of stuff in the world is very big, right? And like that system develops a little bit, but all the stuff that I was frustrated with, and I'll start going over that in a second, it was still there, and it didn't really improve. I think truly the thing that makes it so hard for me to connect to this game, the thing that if they change this one thing, I would give it another 5 or 6 hours, is the narrator. Is the way voice acting works in this game. There is an Attenborough-esque narrator. That is what they're going for. In which this guy's voice describes the world as you do stuff. The sun goes down the sun comes up and he says, you know what they say. It's always brightest when it's dawn. And it's like a little half joke about a phrase that's not actually that, but that he says it weird. And that's like, haha. Or he, you know, you go into a really hot place and he's like, you know, be careful, you'll get yourself scorched or whatever. That I did like a game show voice there, not an Attenborough voice, but that's like the sort of thing he's doing. And he is how all of the dialogue in the game gets rendered vocally. This is key. You go up to meet someone, and talk to them, and they, you know, in any other game, what happens is I go to Rob. Rob has a quest for me.
This is very funny because Patrick ranted about this on Monday.
Okay, well, I'm going to re-rant about it.
No, I want you to keep going. I'm not going to stop you.
Okay. Rob says, I want you to go kill 3 wolves. And in fucking Biomutant, David Attenborough goes, he wants you to kill 5 wolves.
But and also,
right, also yeah, it gets Muchashakapaka as if it's KOTOR, right? It like literally is just like dropping in alien noises from KOTOR. All you have to do, honestly, you write that shit in dialogue form and leave in the animal noises. I'm fine with this game. I don't need it all to be voice acted. If the guy just goes Muchashakapaka and then it says, I want you to kill 3 wolves, perfect. But because it all has to come through this narrator's voice, and because it has to come through the narrator's, I mean that both literally the voice actor, who's doing a good job, but also with what he's being told to do, but also through his voice, his written voice, everything becomes so flat. It's characterless. The sound, the way that the threat from the big hulking wolfman is given, it feels the same as the nice, inventor guy telling you to go help repair his mech, and he'll give you his mech, because it's all Attenborough being like, he looms over you and threatens your life, and then saying like, he offers you a hand if you do him a favor. And that's not, it doesn't work.
So every time, like both times I've heard about this now, like the weird thing is, it feels like it should work. Like each time I hear it, I'm like, it's a cool idea. I'm reminded of like Bastion, where the narrator is kind of like talking over what's happening.
I also don't think it works in Bastion, and I know that makes me an outcast. I know this.
But also like, okay, or like a cool like children's TV show, like in Thomas the Tank, where like the narrator is actually, though, he is voicing all the characters. That's the crucial thing.
He's voicing them. He's not.
They're all his voice, but he is. You can hear.
That's
like,
how you read a book to a child. When you read a book to a child, you don't do. I was thinking of a child's book, and I was going to say Sauron because that's where my mind went.
Pete the cat, Peppa the pig.
Peppa the pig, right? You don't say like, well, and then Peppa the pig. I actually don't know how Peppa the pig is written. This is the thing, but you actually try to embody that character.
Yeah.
Right? If you have a villain, you drop your voice and you say what I'm going to get you, Peppa the Pig. I don't think Peppa the Pig has an antagonist.
Well, no, but I get the equivalent was there's this like small like Star Wars for kids book that I read.
There you go.
There's about like Leia like just like fucking with Darth Vader, and every time I've read it dozens of times, and like I don't want to do the Darth Vader voice, like I just don't, and like we'll get like 3 pages in, and then I'll get like a tap on my shoulder, like Dad, like.
Do the voice.
Yeah. Okay.
Do the voice.
You got to do the voice. And yeah, if you're not going to do the voice, then
why are we reading this book? And in this game, it'd be one thing if it was occurring like, hey, big picture moments, like main characters, the narrator zooms in and is going to kind of take this in and like give it some, I don't know, some gravitas. But it's like when you see a city. And this is where it grated on me to the point that I was like, all right, now I'm going to power down this Xbox. Was like, oh, like here's the city. I'm going to go talk to the inhabitants, get some of the color of the world, which isn't even to pick up side quests or anything like that. It's literally just like get little bits of world building. And it still does that for, like there was, hopefully I'm not repeating myself, but like there was one person I came up to and clicked on and like, the narrator is just like, they really enjoyed talking to you. You seem profound and interesting. And it's like, did that, what? Like, and especially when you just want to like tap A to get through a thing, like they could have just said, nice to meet you, like welcome to my city. And that could have just been, it takes a thing that I understand you, Rob, and why these developers on paper, both from a production standpoint, easier to have like one voice that's doing all of the narration and a lot of the heavy lifting on the world building and storytelling. But it just happens everywhere to the point where then it discourages me from wanting to talk to folks unless I absolutely need to from like a quest perspective.
It feels like somewhere in an early pre-production meeting someone said, oh, the world is just animals and there's no humans anymore. What if it was like an Attenborough documentary?
Well, so correct. That's exactly right, Cado.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. There's another angle to this that I think is
like the Elvis character
was frustrating me. No, I'm not going to talk about the Elvis character. It is like, it's one thing when it's like you come into a place and the Attenborough voice says, it's Peekaboo Park. Young ones love this sort of space or this sort of place. That's okay. I'm like, it's not okay. I mean, I think that's actually fine. I think that's the perfect place for it, is describing the world. You go into a new area. He gives you a little detail.
I don't have to go read a signpost that tells that to me.
100%.
It is delivered as exposition through this convenient narrator.
Right. I think it's a little bit worse when he says this one seems to be. You meet someone named Captive Spirit who's in a cage being hung up from a few feet in the air, and you rescue him. And it says Captive Pilgrim, and he says this one seems to be in good spirits despite being left here for dead. Has heard that you, not he has heard even, or they have heard, has heard that you have a sense of compassion and it's in your nature to help those in need. Like, that's already not great because it just takes me out of, I would so much rather just chirp, 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 chirp. And then underneath it says, I've heard about you. I hear you have a good nature, which isn't how he would speak, but you know what I mean.
Right.
I hear you're a good person. Thanks for helping me out.
It's like they didn't even follow
it
through on like it seemed like that core idea was of like being a third person observer. It's like talking to you, the player, directly, which wouldn't, like, Attenborough wouldn't do it when describing things that are happening in a nature, quote unquote, nature documentary. So it's like not even working on that.
Combine
level,
that, right, and then combine that with the fact that this game is just extremely and weirdly Orientalist. There are 6 tribes. The first 2 you meet are a sort of pastiche of Southeast Asia and fake samurai. And one of them is like super peaceful, man, and in tune with nature and the world. And the other one are a terrible warlord samurai who crave power. And also let's again be clear that like all of the combat in this game is called Wang Fu for some reason.
Every time this game is full of the goofiest like proper nouns to just like, there are like sequences where like the game is like, I was trying to find a screenshot. I thought I'd taken a screenshot of something that I wanted to just repeat the words because they were so absurd, and I can't find it, but it was just like every
I know
every proper noun they'd come up with to describe the world and the things, and it was just like, look, I can tolerate, like, I have a really high tolerance for like, bullshit. Like, I love fantasy and sci-fi, and like this sounds just like gibberish.
Yeah,
but I don't have it here.
It's a lot of stuff that you would. It's weird because it's not quite Doggo. You know what I mean? It's not quite Small Bean, but it's like you go that direction and turn left to get to. Like, we have to find it. We have to find some stuff that like hits this.
I will try to find it
Please try to find me some examples. I should have taken screenshots. They should have sent a poet to take notes. To be like, but when you then apply the Attenborough voice to these like racialized tribes, which again are not. There's no, as far as I can see, narrative reason why this tribe is Samurai tribe, this tribe is India tribe. The third tribe I met was not that. It was, I think it was America tribe. It was a bunch of football players, a bunch of guys in football gear. But
that feels like, bad. Oh, yeah, that makes it real, doesn't it, folks?
Yeah,
you don't like that.
It's very weird. And at that point, when you're bringing to bear that sort of pop anthropological voice, when you move it from here are some animals to here are people in funny hats, you really, the stakes have changed, and you have to start wondering what goes in, or you have to think about the way that hits is what you have to think about. And for me, it don't hit great because it feels like it's just superficially drawing on real histories in order to like introduce a sense of the exotic. The first peoples you meet here aren't like you and I, is that sort of thing. This is not a game from Asia. I believe this is THQ Nordic is a European studio. I forget where the Biomutant devs are from.
Sweden.
Is it Sweden?
Yeah, Experiment.
I think that's right.
101.
101. Yeah, totally. Yeah, Stockholm. And I like samurai. I like samurai. But there's like a reason why you don't just kind of throw them in the way that it's thrown in here. And it's because it rings false. It rings extremely false. And now, like, on top of that, let's be clear. I also think like the combat is mushy and soft and doesn't feel like punchy in any meaningful way. I got to a place where I kind of liked it more when I went back, because I'd read someone say like slow down. Stop trying to like button through the combos quickly, because the game will miss your inputs basically. And so I got very deliberate. I was like, all right, then I'm going to hit, X, X, Y. And if I did that instead of going X, X, Y, it was a little bit better. But even there, by the end of the 8-hour period, I had completely broken. I found a build that just completely broke the game in a way that feels deeply predictable. They said there's a bunch of types of guns in the game. Guns are meant to be kind of supplemental damage. You kind of just like shoot while you're at a distance, and then you kind of close in. And my guess is you can build around it. I did pick the character class that starts with like good gun skills or whatever. But you in general, the way it works is your lower damage guns shoot really quick. Your high damage guns shoot really slow. And so I built myself a shotgun, which did a ton of damage, but had, a 2.5 seconds between shots. So it was like, it seemed pretty well balanced.
It's a shotgun.
And then shotgun, video game shotgun. Fuck, that's a good name for something. The thing I remembered is that there's a super mode that you can activate. Anytime you land 3 special combos, and you unlock those special combos through a kind of a skill tree, a very simple skill, really a skill menu. And their weapons, based on I had to unlock the shotgun one by itself. And that's like, I think it's actually like dodge, do a melee attack, and then hit the gun button. And then you'll do a special attack. And they all have very goofy names. Also, those are all named things like, diving hawk, or swooping owl, or I forget what my main one is called, wicked wolf with the two-handed sword. And those are all kind of cool. I like the comic book kind of explosion of words when you do them. But if you do 3 of those, you then go into super mode. I think it's called super Wang Fu mode, or maybe it's just called Wang Fu mode. It's like that.
There's not even, at least, do they at some point explain why it's called
I'm
Wang
sure
Fu?
we will meet a Wang Fu master who explains where it comes from.
And that character will be in no way problematic.
And when you get that super mode, you can shoot the gun as quickly as you can pull the trigger, and it gets infinite ammo for like 8 seconds. And so this gun that is doing hundreds of points of damage per trigger pull, I'm now just like, okay, boss dead. Like instantly killing bosses that are supposed to take me like a minute or like 90 seconds of really intense combat because it can hit me so hard. It's like, well, all I do is get off 3 combos and I can just instant kill this thing. The combat at that point completely fell apart for me. Like I was like doing the Icarus climb of like, oh, I'm starting to get this. I'm starting to get the rhythm on this combat. Ooh, this is kind of a tough fight. I'm only level 10 and this guy's level 13. But if I dodge and weave, you know what I mean? If I like figure out the patterns and if I get a couple good parries in, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna use the super move, and then he's dead. Oh, okay. I see. This game, the combat just is not balanced in any meaningful way. I mean, likewise, like there are all these psychic abilities that don't seem particularly useful. The most useful one that I've seen is there's a bio ability that lets you put a mushroom down. It gives you a little extra jump distance, and like that's nice. It's just it's a messy game, and I actually do think there will be people out there for whom it is like their Dragon's Dogma, right? There are people for whom it will be the thing that they love. The way I love
it scratches some itch related to whatever, and and in a lot of ways the game is even though it's like pulling from a lot of like modern influences. My characterization of it is like a game that feels like it fell out of like a rare pitch document from the N64 GameCube era.
Yeah, totally.
It feels like, and I like those games a lot. It just lacks like the polish that Rare got working alongside a Nintendo during that era. And so, but
it's honestly not even the polish for me. I put some time into Outward last year, which is similarly one of these games that gets talked about with the term Eurojank.
Yeah.
And I think that game also lacks a lot of polish, but has a lot of heart and interesting systems and character in a way that like almost got me into it. And it was a matter of like the wrong game the right game at the wrong time for me. I need to find time to go back to it. And more importantly, I think the thing that this game ends up feeling like it lacks, and it goes back to that narrator thing, is it has a lot of character in the world and in the items, but it doesn't have a lot of character in the characters. And I don't know how you make a furry game without having a lot of character in the characters. Like I'm not a furry. I have a lot of good furry friends. Shout outs. I have a lot of affection for animal-like people. I don't know what the fuck is. I don't live the furry lifestyle, but furries appeal to me. I get why you have a cool fox person. I get why it's cool to be a big bear guy. You know what I mean? No animal in the world resonates with me like that, and so I could never be a furry because I feel like
you're gonna pick the Hrothgar in Final Fantasy.
But I picked the Hrothgar in Final Fantasy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because in Final Fantasy, that's the closest thing I could get to a character that felt like me in my heart.
That's right.
Right? But I would never say that I'm a lion person. I don't have that in me.
Right.
But the build of the Hrothgar felt right to me. In any case, in my mind, one of the things that's so powerful about anthropomorphized animal characters is that they're a great vehicle for broad brushed characterization. You got a big wolf guy. That motherfucker gonna howl. He's gonna have a certain, there's a lot of ways you can go with it. He could be vicious, but he could also be smooth. But like, you have to play with it in that way. And that's like part of the appeal. Do you know what I mean? You got a big moose person. That motherfucker's gonna be reliable and stubborn, right? One or the other, right? You're gonna have that in there. And none of that comes through in this game because it's all fake Attenborough doing, again, as good a job as he can with the stuff. And it's such a bummer because I was ready to log on as the defender. I really truly was twice. Before the game came out, I was ready to like sing its praises. And then after my revisit to it, where I was like, I'm going to put another 3 or 4 hours into this thing because I really want to know that I believe the thing I'm saying. And I unfortunately, I believe the thing I'm saying, and the thing I'm saying is I don't think this game is particularly good. And I really don't think that THQ Nordic of all groups should be like out there trying to start beef with reviewers over it. Like,
oh yeah.
Don't forget, I remember you shouting out Mark not that long ago. I know who the fuck y'all are. Anyway, words from this game. A fluff Hulk is a thing you could fight. Mm-hmm. When you go to a radar dish for
his
radar
friend
center.
Gizmo was working on a mechton that needs help defeating the Jumbo Puff at the end of the West Route.
Yes, yes, great one. A ping dish instead of a radar dish because it pings things.
I just found the clip. Wiz is still repairing his octopod to confront the Mark Puff that dwells deep down under the surface at the end of the. No, that one's. There's like a specific one that like made me cackle that I'm trying to find here.
Some of them are like just on the right side of it, but many of them are not. You know. Anyway, that's Biomutant. I can't imagine putting too much more time into it. I think it's and yet at the same time, I think there is a great deal of skill in the creation of this thing in terms of the art that has been made for it, in terms of what they kind of conceptualized, and I respect the ambition and reach. Unfortunately, the grasp just ain't there, and it's a bummer because I can see the better game.
Where you play a game and go, I want to play the sequel to this, but like I want to play the sequel to this, which is like there's enough here that I could see like
I think there's 5 patches could make me play this game and really like it. Do you know what I mean? I really do. I'm that close. I think the combat needs a rework. I think that you need to let me decide if, and this is a big one, you need to rewrite the game in a more active voice in which the characters are saying things instead of what they're saying is being summarized. Because, I mean, this is the other thing. When I read stuff like that, what it reads like is not the narrator. It reads like a spreadsheet with all of the dialogue in it summarized that you'll get to one day, like, and say, okay, at some point this character will have a line that says, I can sense that you're noble, you know? But for now, I'm just going to say that they can sense that you're noble. And then when we get to the point where we have to like dial in what that character's voice is, we'll do that. And then we'll find a unique way of saying that. And it just, so you change that out, you know?
Just a couple of patches, you know.
Just a little light work. Just rewrite the whole game. No big deal, right? I get it. It's frustrating. It's just frustrating because I can see it. It's so close, you know. It's like it's the thinnest, but also the densest metal. A sheet of metal separates Biomutant from being a game I really like, and that's a hard truth to just accept. but I gave it my all. I really did.
Yeah, it's frustrating to see a game where you don't want to be the backseat designer. It's like, well, they just made the game that I wanted.
Right, totally.
I'd be happy, but it can be frustrating.
It's also $60. Let me be clear about that. It is not like if it was $25, if it was $30,
2 thumbs up.
I'd be like, wow, they really did it. But I can't. I don't want to spend $60 on this.
Right.
And it's probably worth $60 in terms of hours spent making it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that it's like, I think the game price economy is really fucked up, but I also know that people don't have infinite money and have to make choices with their money.
It's also,
I think $60 is better spent on smaller projects, from more people than giving it all to this one game that is currently not at a great place.
It is a prime Game Pass candidate. Something like that where I think it is where it was like, throwing aside the natural unexpected consequences of the rise of these services, right? Just putting that away because I can't know them. And
it's nice not to think about how
it's nice not to think about it. And I don't make games, and I'll just be able to write like, boy, this went wrong in a reflective essay interviewing a bunch of developers. In the sense of what can those services do for games that do ultimately should be charging $60 for the time that was spent building it, but we exist in an environment where that's going to create a barrier to people trying a game they would otherwise like or be willing to. Things like Game Pass, it's in the same with any other streaming service. Like once you're just kind of like paying for like access to things, your not even necessarily your expectations, but like how you approach a thing is different. And like if you download Biomutant on Game Pass, you might end up being pleasantly surprised, not caring as much that the combat's a little mushy, and like just find the thing that you like and be like, yeah, cool, this is the game I'm playing for the next 2 weeks because I pay for a monthly subscription to Game Pass, and like that's worth it. And I think the Biomutant of the world, and the same way that like the Tell Me Whys of the world are going to fuel stuff like that, as we exist in a world that like it continues to exacerbate the difference between a Returnal or an Uncharted and like the amount of money needed, right, to make those things like line up with the expectations of an audience that wants them to have that kind of asset production. And it's like, well, then where does a game like this exist? Like, I don't want necessarily Biomutant to be like a tiny little constrained production if it wanted to do this.
No.
And so I like living in a world where they swung for the fences, even if it was messy as a result. And like, I guess I'm looking for the optimistic view on things like Game Pass. It's like, oh, can games like that then exist because they can be in some ways subsidized by a giant corporation that needs to pay hand over fist for content. And like that's the world I would like to live in, that allows a game like a Biomutant 2 to exist because Microsoft says, actually did a really well on Game Pass. We'd love for you to make another one, and this time it'll be exclusive to Xbox or something. But
I should know there are 2 other voices in this game. There's your conscience. I forgot about the light and dark conscience voices.
That's a terrible system.
It's a bad system. You have to go all in on them to get any rewards. You can't like role play a character who makes different decisions because then you don't get to unlock the high level magic, which is all tied behind high level good or evil scores. Also, it is 100% do you kill the puppy or pet the puppy morality system.
Great.
I literally mean those are the options. When you save an animal, it's like kill it or let it free, or pet it and let it free, or something like that. And then a devil voice comes in, and your little devil spirit pops on your shoulder, or the little angel voice pops on your shoulder, and they don't even make you commit. You can always walk it back. If you've done the bad thing, you can be like, well, I didn't mean to do something that bad. And the angel voice goes like, I knew you had good in you. And then it undoes some of the bad moral energy you just got because you said
I didn't mean to kill this animal. I feel bad about it now.
I know I picked that option. It's very funny. Anyway, that's Biomutant. We should take a break and recover our energy before we continue on into the world of games. BRB. All right, we are back. Rob, I want to check in with you. Are you still pushing through The Evil Within 2?
I am. I think right now I've settled into a decent groove with it. I've had my first couple boss battles.
Nice.
And the thing that, there's a couple things. One is I was doing such a good job of hoarding resources. And then like back-to-back boss battles cleaned me out. And so like I finished those, and suddenly now like this is a much harder game than it was before, because like I basically blew through all the ordnance. Now some of this is, I was so pissed. I got a little cute. I went into a room, and I was like, this is an encounter room. Like I can see how the battle dynamics are going to be, I think. So I laid traps. The thing that triggered the battle triggered a cutscene. When the cutscene finished, all my traps were gone, and the ammo I'd spent on it, therefore, was also gone.
No.
And so I had this entire room. I was like, something's going to come into this room, and I'm going to fucking murder these guys. Because the game had just thrown an earlier challenge where it was this exact dynamic where like you start a thing, a timer goes, and then from multiple entrances into the room, enemies start flooding in. And that one I like sort of breezed through by creating like position 1, position 2, position 3. Yeah. And like I basically just like mowed down everyone. This one I was like, okay, here's how I'm going to run this fight. Totally different kind of fight, by the way. It wasn't waves of enemies. It was this giant fucked up spider camera thing, the Obscura. And I hated it. And it was a good fight, but yeah, it wasn't waves of enemies, and all my traps are gone, so it didn't matter. And so I just ended up having to basically have a very conventional video game fight of running around in circles and like shooting this thing a lot.
Which is not as interesting as I've set up a bunch of traps using this game's cool trap system, and that's a shame. That's a shame.
But I still it's still just a game where everything is just working for me. I love the whole Psychonauts-esque, you're warping around the world and you're seeing other parts of it up in the sky. Yeah. I am still waiting for the game to maybe get a bit weirder. I think if I had a complaint right now, it's that. So it's doing the like haunted small town supernatural horror thing, but basically I'm up against a pretty bog standard serial killer with really conventional abilities. Like basically it's like, what if Hannibal were a wizard with a camera fetish? That's kind of what I'm up against. I'm up against this murderous asket in a silk jacket. And like, I gotta like, he is creepy. But just the overall like look of this game, like, oh, this other part of this small town Americana that's become like twisted and evil, I'm getting a little bit over it. And I'm waiting for the
I feel like that's the game. It's been a couple years, but I feel like that's just the game.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the environments are in the back half, but I think that's mostly just.
It kind of reminds me of the way like Inception never really does like get into the weirdness of dream logic.
Yeah, totally.
And this kind of feels the same way, where it's like the conceit is, you're in the Matrix, but it's going to be a pretty normal world beyond that. And like other parts of the world will be up in the skybox to let you know you're in this area of unreality. But the places you go are going to be like pretty recognizable and normal, like
and grounded. Like,
yeah. And so that's my one thing is I'm like, it's creepy, but I'm starting to like really like figure out the combat. And with the exception of these boss battles, I'm starting to hit this point where I'm like, these monsters ain't shit. This ain't scary.
Yep.
Oh, like I've upgraded my pistol so many times.
Oh, I
like,
love to upgrade.
Come at me.
Isn't the best thing in a survival horror game to just upgrade your main simple pistol until it's a super weapon?
The OP pistol in a horror game that becomes better than the machine gun that they're like limiting so much your ammo count on is great.
Totally. I will say that was one of my favorite things at RE8 was you do get a Magnum eventually, which is not ever going to be your main pistol because it uses different ammo. But it's still fun that the strongest weapon in that game is basically just a pistol. And just dropping a boss with like 4 shots from it is like, yeah, I spent that ammo right. That paid off. That feeling is good.
Yeah.
I need to go back to Evil Within. I really do. Or 2, not 1.
The one thing that's tripping me up a little bit is also I do wonder if now that I've got the weapons upgraded, I am not. So basically now I'm kind of shit canning a lot of the risks I used to take, where it's like I'm going to sneak through this like, a crowd of monsters and pick them off one by one. And if it goes wrong, it's going to go super bad for me, but like I can thin this herd. Yeah. And that was really scary. That was a lot of tension. And now I'm just like, I'm going to post up on top of this semi and going to take them out with a couple sniper shots.
Go in,
and then
you're just describing every horror game with combat ever made, unfortunately. Evil Within 2 did not solve that problem. The way to solve that is you just need to, if you can switch the difficulty mid-game, is that you kind of need to do it yourself. Like these games always flop on this particular angle.
It might just be like if ammo were less widely available, I would probably be a lot more tense right now. It still feels really good, but like some of the tension is bleeding out, and I feel like that's either difficulty tuning. It's a combination of like difficulty tuning and then also the way the game is like conceptualized.
Yeah, totally.
We're about to enter a Sonic cycle while we record this podcast. I'm very excited.
Are Sonic stuff about to drop?
Oh yeah, the big Sonic, was it 35th anniversary? What year is it for Sonic? I don't know. It's a big year for Sonic. It's always it's always a big year for Sonic.
It's always a big year for Sonic. It's always a big year for Sonic.
This year in particular is they're about to announce a bunch of things. So I'm just excited to see people. I'm excited to see people get excited. That I'm going to choose to be happy for them, even though Sonic is not my chosen franchise.
Sonic Mania is really good.
Yes. I don't like playing those games, but it was like a well-made, like one of those if you're into the Sonic.
I hope they make a new Sonic Adventure. That's the thing I want.
Man, yeah. I'd play.
They should just make one. They should just make one. Just make a new Sonic Adventure. Just make one. Sega, just make a new Sonic Adventure.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Sega.
Make Sonic, get BioWare to make the Dark Chronicles 2, finally. God. Please.
Remember when they made that game?
I do. I never played it.
I played it at a press event. That's the extent of me playing that game, I believe.
I'm excited.
Dear Sega Sonic PR, why don't you just make another Sonic Adventure? Thanks.
Just make another one.
Patrick
just make another
Advice.
One. Bring back.
They
bring
did
back Adventure
in 2006.
Zones. What were those called? Sonic Adventure. They weren't called. They weren't called Adventure Zones. They were called something zones. They're action stages, and then there was field zones. Field zones.
Were those the Knuckles ones?
No, Adventure Fields. Adventure Fields are where you're just in the world.
Right.
Because Sonic Adventure 1 was an open world game.
Because what's the one that people really love of that era? Sonic Colors, right? That's the one.
No, Sonic Colors. Yeah, Sonic Colors is later. People did really like that. Yeah. That's a Wii game, I want to say Colors was.
Yeah, but I know that people have been like desperately hoping that would get an HD re-release.
I could see an HD remake would make sense. The thing is that game had a really specific thing called wisps in it that gave you superpowers. Okay. And then they just they kept putting wisps in things. Those are the colors. And it's like they kept putting wisps in, I want to say Generations or Forces had wisps. And like that's fine, but like colors had the wisps. Let that be the thing in the Colors universe. I don't need that in Generations. I don't need that in Forces. Forces is the one where you can make your own Sonic character, which I thought was a fun idea. I remember and then I looked at a bunch of Sonic characters and
yep. Was it Bloomberg's also out here dropping the Switch 4K might get announced in like the next week.
Okay, sure.
What?
Come out in September.
Damn.
Can't read the actual Bloomberg report. Haven't anyone paying for?
If you get a Bloomberg terminal, then you can
share their login with me. Sorry, Jason. I don't pay for it.
I'm glad we're getting some news updates. Patrick, do you have anything besides news updates today? You got any other games you want to Knockout City?
I'm still playing that. I talked a bunch about that on.
Okay, good. I didn't know if you talked about it on.
Yeah,
on
no, really like it. Still really like it.
I started that last night. I got MVP on my first full match. I think I'm done. I think I got to retire.
Cool. That's great. Yeah, I want to download I've been playing on PlayStation. I want to download the Switch version because that would give me a chance to like play more matches than I am currently. I can feel myself going through the same arc with that game that I did with Rocket League, which is like a really intense love affair for like a month. And then it turns off. But like it was a really good month. And my guess is that I'm going to go through the same thing with this. But yeah, I still really like it. The other game I played is Wild at Heart, which is on Game Pass. I believe it's
made a game of that? That's weird. Wow.
Or the Wild Heart. I don't know if there's a the in the front of it, but it's I played it on Game Pass.
Nick Cage in it, Laura Dern. They brought
him back for this cutesy Pikmin adventure.
Oh, that's different. Yeah,
that's not what that movie's about.
No, not so much.
Oh, weird.
It's close though.
It's not about like a young teenager fed up with his alcoholic father and like leaves to go into the forest and then ends up with a bunch of pixie people.
You know, the start of that one could happen in the world of Wild at Heart, honestly. But then the pixie stuff, I mean, no, sorry, no.
I really only played Pikmin 1. I didn't really play Pikmin 2 or 3. That was the most
I will say
recent
David Lynch could have made the thing you just said, though.
Sure, yeah.
You know?
Why not? That could have been, from what I've heard, what happened to like the most recent season of Twin Peaks. Like, there's no reason you couldn't.
You should watch that.
Couldn't
season.
have gone. I know
it's wild.
Well, I'm not at this point. I'm not waiting for whatever he's doing next, and that'll be my impetus to finally sit down and do it. I'm
going to interrupt you just for
please.
1 second. I just want to say one thing.
Yeah.
We are so lucky to have gotten Twin Peaks: The Return. That's it. That's it. I just think I complain a lot about the world, about media. I think we're blessed to have gotten that show. That's it. Go ahead, Patrick. Talk to me about this game with this teen and Pikmin. It's very cute. It has a really great 2D art style.
Yes, I did. Strong, kind of like Double Fine vibes. Like being, reductionary, for like a studio vibe as opposed to trying to like describe it as just it looks like a cartoon. But yeah, it definitely like reminds me of like playing like I know like a Costume Quest was 3D, but I don't know. Just give me strong, like a lot of the art that you see, like any like 2D art that you see like Double Fine doing. Like this feels like that transplanted into a Pikmin-esque game. So yeah, the setup is
all the art is like it's all 2D sprite based stuff, but it's not sprite based in like the retro
pixelated.
sense.
Yes.
But it's everything has this great sense of texture to it. There's been a lot of work spent on like. It's not just a green hat. It's a green hat that has a couple of different greens in it and some like distressed marks on it. The world feels like
it feels like I'm walking around in a graphic novel.
Yeah, sure.
Like where where you just have a higher elevated expectation of like the detail sometimes and works like that. Like in any case, yeah. So the setup is that you're. Like you are this, teenage kid, maybe like, seems like early high school, something like that. You're just sick of your dad. There's beer cans around the TV and you're like, I'm gone. Like I'm done. I'm leaving this place. And you're going to meet up with your buddy, Kirby, who I presume is not. You know what? Where this game is going, Kirby's could be a pink fluff ball in the middle of the woods for all I know. But that's your bud. You're supposed to go meet up with him. Or her, actually, I don't know. You walk into the woods and all of a sudden you like meet the strange kind of wizard person who then introduces you to these little, I think called spritelings, I believe is the term that they use for them. But like they're Pikmin. Like that's what this game is very much like. We wanted to make a Pikmin game, and so we've decided to make one. And so like kind of the general, what you're doing is, you're collecting objects in the world that give you resources to like build your Pikmin. They don't die. Like they're very specific about saying like, hey, when you threw it into the fire and it exploded, it didn't die. Like it is part of this forest. Yeah. The physical body that it takes on is just a manifestation of the forest. And so don't worry, you can throw them at that giant slime that stomps them and you don't have to feel bad about it. Like you can just pull them back from the afterlife that they exist in, put them in a squishy, gross physical body and, command them to do your bidding. And so if you've played a Pikmin, like it's basically you have a main character and a bunch of small characters following you around. They have different properties associated with them. So like the basic one that you start with, the basic spriteling is just, hey, there's like a rock. Someone needs to smash it. And so you hold X and you can fling them in the direction and they kind of pick up context clues of what they can do in the world. Maybe that is if you fling them at a like a collectible,
that you can't fit in your backpack anymore, they can pick it up. If you fling them at a rock, they will break it. If you fling them at an enemy, they will fight it. And then you, as the game progresses, you get ones that have different can be put into different contexts. Like what I unlocked last night was the second spriteling type that it's like on fire, and so you can throw it at like little brushes that you previously would hurt you, and like now those are gone, and I can pick up the objects in them. So yeah, if you've played like I don't even want to say like one of those, because like Nintendo is like the only company that really makes these games. You look at a game like Raise the Dead that I did a profile of. That game's like tumultuous development over the course of 10 years. They tried to just make a Pikmin, and like one of the like choice quotes they gave me that I'm going to paraphrase here was like, "Hey, there's like a reason Nintendo does it, because it's hard. Like the AI and context, like the context of what the player wants to do and what the AI, what the little creatures want. Like it's really tough. And maybe there's a reason that only Nintendo is like kind of making these sort of like esoteric like strategy games. I haven't had any issues with that so far in Wild at Heart. Like the little creatures have done what I've wanted them to do, and they like because it's been a long time since I played Pikmin. Like the way they organize them in Wild at Heart is, you can go out with a collection of them, and then you tap like right bumper, and you switch between the types. So you're not necessarily like mixing and matching them, but you can. Where it's like, hey, I'm gonna go throw 2 of like the basic kind of worker soldier types, and then I'm gonna throw 1 fire guy in there because that's, maybe I've met an enemy that is weak to fire, and that will kind of like help the fight go along. So it's really gorgeous, very pleasant to play, really charming writing. Like,
awesome.
It's like one of those like not best game ever. It would be like maybe a fleeting experience, but like one of those like very pleasant fleeting experiences that I'm having like a really good time kind of plucking at when I've got a spare moment and just kind of want to chill out. Like after I have all the adrenaline of a knockout city match, and then I have to come down.
You wind down a little bit. Yeah. I got you.
And it has a fun day, like not day-night cycle, but there are the enemies. And so there are sort of like wilderness creatures that you are like, that you're fighting with your spritelings. And then there are these, like the larger story is about defending the forest from these things called the Never. And they appear at night. So like that they don't like light, yada, yada, yada. So you'll go out for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes. And then all of a sudden kind of like the night cycle kicks in, and you've got a couple minutes to get back to a base, and there are like kind of warp points, or you can set down, you can craft like lighting equipment that can, like, if you went out too far, you're not near a camp or a warp zone, you can build like a piece of lighting that like will, you can use to ward them off while you make your way back. And it seems to be pretty well tuned, where by the time that kicks in, you're probably like full of junk anyway, and like need to head back and like drop off the collectibles you've gotten, like rearrange the spritelings that you have. So I haven't felt a pull yet where it's like, hey, I actually would have liked 5 more minutes out in the world to finish the thing I'm doing. And it seems like you're just arbitrarily sending me back because you like want to create a cycle of like coming back to camp, going back out. That seems to be tuned pretty well so far. So yeah, it is the Wild at Heart. I looked it up to make sure I got it right. But yeah, the Wild at Heart. It is on Game Pass if you have that. But I believe it's on a variety of other platforms as well. And it's very cute and charming. I like it.
Nice. Speaking of colorful things, I do want to shout out Unexplored 2, which dropped in early access on the Epic Game Store. Yeah. Cado, you checked this out a little bit, right?
Yeah, I did like the tutorial bits and tried to start my own game. I was kind of surprised because I haven't really been following the development of it, although I know they have like a long running kind of thing on what's that platform?
Fig is where they raise money for it. Yeah.
But I've just been like not paying attention. So when I popped it open, it was like surprising how different it was.
It feels so different. I mean, the first game looks like,
right. So like
it's completely top down, like bright yellow circle game. Do you know what I mean? Like it's very simple geometry,
and it feels like design. So like, the first one was a roguelike, like, and kind of in that traditional way with like
in the most traditional sense of you're in a dungeon. It is 20 floors deep, and there's some side floors.
Find the MacGuffin at the bottom and get back out.
Yeah. Yes.
And so
true roguelike hours.
Right. And like a lot of those mechanics and ideas share a lineage with like the original dungeon, like first edition Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like this idea of like the delve. This one feels like they took a step back and were like, okay, what are the role playing systems doing nowadays as far as like how you deal with conflict and like chance? Yeah. And like they're focusing on those bits instead of like the kind of dungeon delvey bits. Like, for example, one of the first things that they do in the tutorial is have you try to open a door that's been jammed. And so like there's this new system now where you have like, instead of like rolling a dice or anything, there's like a pool of different outcomes that you're
kind of tokens. It's like imagine like a pool of coins or something.
And each token, each token is a different outcome or like a kind of like building upon the current situation. So
it's really neat.
Go ahead.
It's like fail is one, right?
Sure, there's always the failures, and there's failures, there's success,
pure success.
Then there's one that's like take your time. It's like there's a day-night cycle in this game, and so it's like you add 3 successes into your pool, but time moves forward. Like you lose a large chunk of time. There's one that's like you become fatigued, but you immediately succeed, or like things like of that nature, where there's like, you can take this, but there will be a consequence. It's the mixed success failure of like any like, like a lot of indie RPG systems.
Indie RPG, yeah, the kind of contemporary. Yeah.
Totally.
Fail forward.
Exactly. It feels like that's kind of what they're focusing on as far as like the new mechanic.
It's a really cool system because it's so flexible. You can do this with climbing a cliff. But you can also do it with a social role where like I've been confronted by Imperial guards and like tried to talk my way out of it. And it also opens up so many spaces for like characters to have perks that apply to certain situations. So like I built a character that was good at talking, and that meant that she got extra positive tokens in that, or more draws, more attempts to get a good outcome in those social situations or whatever, right? And like it's really neat to see that. I should also just say really quick, it looks gorgeous. It is bright and colorful, and it's gone from being this kind of top-down 2D thing to this kind of isometric, lush but soft, like 3D world. That's so cool.
It's like cell shaded is kind of like the style, but they've done like a really like the way that they use lighting is really good. Like it gives cell shading is normally kind of very flat, but it's like they've taken like a cell shading base and then like lit it really well. And it's just it's gorgeous.
God, the lighting, when you're like in the caves in this game. And you have you activate the part of your staff that gives you a little bit of light is great.
Yeah.
Also, the staff is such a good. You have the staff basically from the first game, the staff of Yendor,
right.
And I mean the staff of the roguelike staff. Because I think the
staff of Yendor is in the original Rogue, right?
Is in Rogue, I believe. No, the Amulet of Yendor is in original Rogue.
Okay,
right.
Now we're getting Yendor staff, right?
Now we're getting Yendor staff, different staff, and it can be used to do magic. But when you do it, you are basically putting the ring on. Right. You're putting on in the Lord of the Rings sense of like, this is a dangerous act you've done. You're calling attention to you.
Right.
There will be consequences.
And like, I don't
like summoning enemies nearby and stuff like that eventually,
Yeah. I haven't gotten very far, but I understand that there is this kind of like a bigger meta layer than the first game didn't have basically any meta layer. It was like you would do a run. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
This one apparently.
Whereas now.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't actually know what this, because I didn't get that far, but I've now seen some videos about like there is a meta layer and like there's an empire, and that's what you're alerting when you start using magic, is that the empire can now see. Yeah, like the Eye of Sauron shit is kind of a good way of saying it's like, oh shit, this like dark empire like can like gets a sense of the direction I'm in, and like there's what exactly have you played the meta layer stuff at all? Or
I've only died, so I've died once, and the thing is, when you die, the world stays the same, and the time advances, which means that a different hero shows up. The empire grows across the continent. more of the land becomes, falls under their sway. The relationship between different factions changes. The map stays the same. The places are in the same place, etc. From the trailer, which I haven't gotten to yet, if you get the staff to like Mount Doom effectively and die, you've lost the game, and it re-rolls the entire world using their proc gen. And that rules.
Yeah.
And in general, the thing is that like, if I remember right, so I haven't gone through a full second playthrough yet, or I haven't gotten back to that character. I think that like, if you have equipment, that equipment is still in the world somewhere. So let's say you did have a really leveled up armor plate, or whatever, that's out there somewhere for you to recover if you potentially. And so it almost feels a lot like they're taking a look at like something like Dwarf Fortress in terms of like generational, like the world building in that sense. It also reminds me a lot of a game that I don't think is out yet, Ultima Ratio Regum by Mark Johnson. It's a game I followed now for like a decade, which is like a Dwarf Fortress, leaning on the roguelike part of Dwarf Fortress, not the and the world generation part of it. That is like Mark's game is like basically building towards big proc gen society civilizations, social civilizations, histories, religions, fashion, etc. People should read about that game, if not play it, whatever version of it is available now, because that game also is doing a lot of that stuff, Anyway, Unexplored 2, I'm excited to put more time into it. I'm trying to decide how deep I want to go now in this early access release.
Right.
Because that first game was one of my favorite games of the year, but like, yeah, exactly. It's early access
still, so.
I think it's planning on being an early access for quite some time still. So, I will also shout out, there's a piece by Stephen Messner up on PC Gamer that gets into some of the details a little bit deeper, called Unexplored 2 is the most innovative adventure game I've played in years. People should go read that. It's very good.
Nice.
They did it.
What'd they do?
Sonic Colors Ultimate.
What?
Oh,
wow.
They did it.
You fucking sniped that.
Yeah, nice. Wait, what's Sonic Prime?
It just seems so like that. Like that is a real. I think even Sonic stands would, that was that era was a real bad period for Sonic games in general.
What are you saying about Sonic Unleashed and the Werehog?
I mean, I love that it exists, but I think if there's a game to pluck out of that era and bring back.
I got a real good one. Yep. I got a real good slide here to share with you. Here we go. This is the real shit coming from King Ice. Here we go.
Who's King Ice?
We got some real lab diamond looking Sonic pieces.
Sonic merch.
Hold on, are you not seeing this shit that Patrick posted above you?
Yeah, the Olympics. Right?
No, but look at it. Look closely at it. Look closely at this image.
Supersonic Racing.
That's not Supersonic.
Which image? The track?
Why does it look like this Sonic is someone in a Sonic suit at the Olympics?
Because he's going to win the Olympics. I'm guessing that.
Are you just not aware how big he is?
That's how big Sonic is.
Sonic thick now?
Sonic thick now.
Wait, actually, though, hold on. Okay, as he's finishing his swings, he's following through his swing in the baseball thing. That does look like a suit. Look at the wrinkle on his arm.
Yes, this is what I'm saying.
So
it looks like a suit.
Can you clarify, Patrick? You've been watching this?
No, I have not. But I would. Who's bigger, Big Luke or Big Sonic?
Big Sonic.
Yeah, Big
Sonic's
Sonic.
bigger than
Sonic's
Big Luke.
huge.
So
absolutely.
Is the thing that I'm looking at here? Do you know? Is this just the Sega Olympics game? But you can play as a Sonic mascot in it.
Oh, I don't even know. I don't even know if this might just be a promo. Yeah, probably, because they put out a Sonic at the Olympics game last year, but in a couple of weeks they have a proper Olympics game that doesn't have goofy cartoon characters. It's
right.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's maybe Sonic. I don't know if Sonic's in it or if this is just their way of like. We know nobody gives a shit about this Olympics game.
A Sonic costume will be in Sega's upcoming.
So that's you're
there
saying
2020.
There we go.
Correct there.
So that's like a player.
Costume.
Yeah, that's a player.
Costume. That's a
in a costume.
In a costume.
Okay.
That's beautiful.
That rules.
That's beautiful.
That's so smart. Wow. If only my brain were this big. God damn. And then it looks like their big final announcement here.
Yeah, there's a new Sonic game next year, like a proper one. And then there was a Sonic Origins, which is like a new collection that they're going to be putting together for 2022. Does it like game companies are like getting better? Like I like what Capcom is doing with their arcade collection. That they're like slowly like building out and putting together, and be nice if Nintendo could figure their shit out.
It's called Sonic Zap. What does this say? What's the say at the end of this? What is this?
The new game?
Yeah, what's this? I'm gonna send you this logo.
I think it's just.
No, he writes this in with his legs. He runs and draws this into the ground. What is that? Does that say Zap? That looks like it says Zap or Zow.
That's not
Sonic.
That's related to the mythology of
the Deep Sonic lore.
This is the unknown
the Deep
Pokemon?
Welcome to Deep Sonic. Our ongoing
Deep Sonic.
Hey, Lore Reasons
Sonic.
You have to get in the comics.
Yeah, we'd have to really get into those Archie comics.
There's a lot. There's a lot of animated series that we'd have to watch.
Yeah, I think that says Zao.
It could be. I think it's Zap.
I think you're probably right, which is horrible.
What's Zap? That's what it is. I think it's Zap. Anyway, yeah, sure, great. Shout out to Sonic fans. We should take a quick dip in the question bucket before we wrap up. Gaming@vice.com is the address. Someone wrote in, I'm not going to read the email. They were like, does Greedfall engage with the questions of Eurocentric colonialism? Go find the episode. We talked about this at length multiple times, I think.
It does, but
we had a long conversation about this, listener. Please go find that one. Here's one. Did you read this thing about 100 Days? This person who's a wine person on Monday's podcast? Ian writes in and says, no actual question, just light to moderate wine dork. I wanted to tell you what a roller coaster I went on listening to Rob talking about 100 Days in episode 398. Vineyard management. Maybe I'll pick that up. Why would you plant Chardonnay in Tuscany? Why are the same handful of grapes planted anywhere with no thought for what makes the most characterful wines in each region? Go back to Napa and Burgundy.
Wow.
But maybe this game is punishing him for planting Chardonnay in Tuscany. The end game is going to make me put Mega Purple in all my wines, isn't it? Thanks for a lovely podcast, Ian. I don't know what Mega Purple is. Is this like a very annoying thing in the wine culture where like everyone's pushed towards? And what is Mega Purple and what is it doing in my wine? I found an article.
Okay, what is it?
Enlighten us.
Okay, you know how this is from Emily Bell on vinepair.com. You know how you go for the slightly shinier apple or get briefly bummed when the Big Mac in your hands looks absolutely nothing like the Big Mac in the commercial? Like it or not, aesthetics factor into consumer judgment as much as, if often not more than, substance. But not because we're monsters. We live in a hypervisual blah, blah, blah. The same is true in beverage. Yes, even in the age of rampant craft, quote unquote, we're all thirsting for authenticity. We're also tweaking the visuals for marketing purposes, which is why something like whiskey, one of the most revered distillates in drinking history, is very often corrected with caramel coloring. All of the flavor we're looking for could already be in the bottle, but the producer knows we associate complexity and style with a particular hue. The same goes for wine. It's just not talked about, at least not as much as we all get really worked up and charge the nearest chateau demanding answers. Now, not that we don't talk about any wine additives, we just don't really talk about some of them, like Mega Purple, the Nightmare Barney sounding grape concentrate thousands of wineries quietly use to color correct their bottles. Made by a taintier grape called Ruby Red. It's Ruby Red, one word with an I instead of a Y. Mega Purple is extremely rich in color. To make Mega Purple, Ruby Red grapes are prepared into a kind of wine with a ton of residual sugar, about 68%, and very rich color. If and when Mega Purple is used, which is a lot, it's generally used in extremely low doses. It's so mega, that's all you really need. So it is what there's a photo here of it. And I've seen wines like this. That's very funny. It's very funny. This is like the glitter thing, but for wine. So yeah, did you go back to 100 Days at all, Rob?
Yeah, I did.
Did you save your winery?
I did eventually fall off it, in part because, like a lot of management games, you hit a point where it's scaling up, and it's just about like operating in a new scale and like tweaking the systems a little bit, but like it becomes very automatic and rote. So I ended up falling off it just because there's not enough of the there's not enough friction, really. It was like so many things were on autopilot that it was like, yep, another award-winning harvest of Chardonnay, and I was like, I barely did anything. Like it's just they're just beautiful grapes just falling off the vine into my hands and turning into Chardonnay instantly. And so like there wasn't a lot for me left to do.
We had a lot of people write in after we talked about sequentiality and like listening to full albums or watching a show from start to finish or et cetera. Matt writes in and says, "Hi all, I've been really enjoying the question bucket and food bucket segments. Your convo this week about engaging with media in non-sequential order made me want to share a method that I've come up with for watching endless TV over the years. When trying out a new show that has multiple seasons, specifically episodic network shows, I will always start with season 2. The reason is that the pilots are just not good, and shows often take a while to find their legs and start writing all the characters so well. So season 2 is often a better representation of what the show can be. Also, network shows are trying to pick up new viewers, so they will fill in the gaps for you. If I like the show, then I'll watch the rest in order, and at the end, loop back to season 1. It feels like it feels like bonus content, and I feel the stilted acting and writing endearing, and learn some of the references I was missing throughout. I wouldn't do this with something heavily plot-driven, but I have had great results for shows like Elementary, The Mentalist, and The Blacklist. Please roast me as you see fit for this practice. I love your podcast and find your approaches. Thinking about games and art is meaningful and refreshing. Thank you, Matt from Toronto."
I highly advise. I haven't done this, but I know that a lot of people do it for like comedy, like network comedies in particular, right? Where like the first season of Parks and Rec or like The Office. Like The Office is like famously fucking trash in its like first season, and then like finds its footing like as it goes along. Parks and Rec was the same way, similar creative teams. So like that's like not surprising. That's how like they find their footing. But I can see the argument there, like especially in comedies where you're not like the character arcs are less important than the week to the equivalent of the monster, the problem of the week that they're dealing with in the episode. But doing that in a drama, I find even like what's going on in the please write back. Let me know what's happening in the Blacklist. Like that show has been going on for
what's going on in the Blacklist?
Like catch me up. I'm not gonna look at it.
Summarize.
This person needs to write back in and like hit me up. Blacklist is in like season 7 or 8.
So is Red her dad or what?
I have no idea, dude. Like I watched a lot of like Boston.
I watched all season 1 and most of season 2 of that show. Yep. I watched all season 1 of that show.
I watched I almost watched it because I watched like a lot of like Boston Legal and like really fell for that like show's rhythms for whatever reason. And then was like, like when that show finished, like he started on like the Blacklist, and I was like, I guess. And I watched the trailer and I was like, I can't. I don't think I could do. I could do this show.
When I had ankle surgery, I ended up watching it because I was like, I'm gonna be laid up. This seems like the perfect moment to get in the Blacklist. And as weird as I knew that was a really expensive show. Like NBC poured a lot of money into that because like it was you're gonna watch an FBI hostage rescue team get murked every week. And like I was like, okay, this seems it'll be big and dumb. It might scratch that Alias itch. Nah, not really. It's like there is so much. You know what it is? It's like really specific, endless James Spader like fan service.
I was gonna say this is
James
like,
Spader
not
writing
checks.
There's nothing beyond that,
right?
But it took me a long time to be like, this could be interesting. Could be, and somewhere in the second season, I was like, and yet it's not.
Do you want to watch, 18 minutes of a 42-minute show just to get a little hit of James Spader being eccentric with a trench coat?
And the answer for a season was yes.
Yeah.
And then it stopped being.
That was the entire, like him, he was the entire reason I watched Boston Legal. It was just like, James Spader is incredible in this show.
The other thing just fucking broke me was there was this long arc about her marriage in trouble with her nice but ambiguously evil husband.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, the moment I knew I needed to hit eject was they introduced this character a sexy bombshell named Jolene, and she is just like making a play for the husband. And like, meanwhile, their relationship isn't doing well because of all the lies and deceit built into it. And he's like starting to respond to some of these flirtations. And I swear to God, it culminates with an episode where he and Jolene are meeting for an assignation while the song Jolene plays.
Right. This is
and
why.
Like,
this is why this
Her
happened.
name is just Jolene. Like, this isn't a reference. It's just.
It's why they picked that
want
name.
To use the song.
That episode.
We're going to do the plot of the song in this
so that we
fucking
can use
show.
So we can use the song.
So that we can have this sexy woman walking down the hall while Jolene plays. And then it turned out, by the way, that he was like also a secret agent and was like a deep cover. And I was like, I can't anymore.
I can't
I think this is too stupid.
Isn't the Blacklist the one that did the animated finale last season?
Yeah, like the Unreal Engine like finale.
And it was not fully that. It was cut in with real footage that they had filmed already because they stopped mid-filming, I think. Going back to this email, and I'll bring it back around to TV more generally in a second, but going back to this email, I get it. This might be a do as I say, not as I do thing. I get this. I fully respect it. I could never do it. I need to see the warts and all at the top of a show before I can't go into season 2 being like, they're referencing this person. Who is this person?
Yeah.
What is the context I'm missing for this character, etc. I'm a release order. I think this person, go with Godspeed. I get it. I've watched Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Poisonous. Like I like firmly reject the, as we talked about, the like, you know, watch it in chronological. Like I think that's just wrong. Like I don't think you should watch shows that way. But this doesn't cross a line for me. I can see the argument for, especially if you're dipping your toe. It's like, I don't even know if I want to watch this show.
The thing that gets me is they dip their toe, and instead of being like, okay, that's enough for me to get through season 1, they don't get to season 1 until the end.
Right. They don't even do like a skip list for season 1.
Yeah, in this case, I need to know, when did you go back and watch the first season of The Blacklist?
He says at the end, he says it's a victory lap.
But what is the end? We're in the middle of the show's run. I want to know him. Like, we're in between seasons 4 and 5. Time to watch season 1.
Right. Maybe when you catch up. But again, like I couldn't imagine watching The Blacklist without seeing the way those characters met.
I can't imagine you know what? I can't imagine watching The Blacklist.
Period. The end. Full stop. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a glutton in this way for content. A glutton for content.com.
I think for me, it's like, so often the opening of a show tends to be, well, I think it's different.
I want to know what the
comedies
thesis is. I want to know.
Openings tend to be weaker because it takes a while for a cast to like sort of set in and like really start hitting.
Yeah.
But like a lot of dramas, like high concept, like shows, so often the early part is the best part because it's where like things are at their most interesting and the concepts are most interesting. What is frustrating for me is how often like the road ultimately goes nowhere. Mm-hmm. And if there were, but
sure,
the thing that I'm often torn about is like, I still treasure the opening strong episodes of a show when it's full of like weirdness and mystery and like all those questions that are raised. And I wish I could have that without the letdown of when those answers are raised or when those answers are repeatedly postponed because like they're trying to drag out the run of the show. Again, see also The Mentalist. That show knows when to like hit it. It's like the things are coming to a head in the middle of the run and we're going to go with it.
And we're going to go with it. We're not going to resist it.
Yep.
It's
so many other shows
are
like Hard Break. Yeah. We need a 3-year roadmap of just filler.
Maybe part of it also for me is the sense that there's the show and then there's the show. There are episodes of the show which I like, and then there are the show. There is the show itself, and I get a lot of my enjoyment of seeing how the showrunners have some sort of goal in mind at the top. And I see that thing develop, see them work towards it, see them change paths. And I don't get all of that if I don't see where it begins. I don't get, watching the beginning of Star Trek: The Next Generation, that first season is rough, but it lays out a lot of what it wants to do over the course of its run. And seeing how that team changes, addresses their own hurdles or their own stumbles, introduces new ideas, big new ideas, teases stuff, pays off those teases. For me, the whole run up to it being good is part of it being good.
Yeah.
Is part of the enjoyment I get. And it's just a different perspective on it. And I often think about this as being part of, I am often interested as a storyteller in the way at which other storytellers are doing the work. And so that's part of what my interest ends up being, is like, I see how they are. We just did an episode of A More Civilized Age in which we talked about how the beginning of season 2 is way better than anything in season 1. I'd say almost anything in season 1. And a big part of it is just how have they gotten better at making the show? And so much of my enjoyment of those episodes is unlocked because I know how rough the first season is. I would not have liked those episodes as well if not for their contrast with very particular problems in the first season episodes. And so that to me is the wholest joy, the most holistic joy I can have with something, is seeing it grow and change. That episode of More Civilized Age will be out next week, I think. So look forward to that. We should watch this thing Cado posted.
Okay.
Actually, really quick, before we do that, I am going to before we do this, we should maybe go out on this thing Cado posted. Someone did write in and say, I have a question for Rob, but really would love all of your answers. The Mentalist and Justified are both hits in my house, and we're looking for a new show to watch. Does Rob have any more 6-season shows no one watched that are secretly great? If so, is it Grimm? That show sort of has the whiff of being amongst the shows that have a secret Zachney intangible. P.S. If you don't have an answer, could you pitch Columbo to my partner, Allie? I really think she'd love it, but needs more endorsements. Thanks, James from Rochester.
Man, 6-season shows that nobody watched. Thing is, so few shows run 6 seasons that are under the radar.
Yeah.
But maybe they mean anyone, meaning their friends, and not CBS demographics.
Right.
Because The Mentalist was actually pretty popular. This is the weird thing. It's like it's a secretly great show that often outstrips prestige TV, despite looking like a generic CBS thing. So, man, that's a great question.
The one that comes to mind that I know you're a big fan of is Person of Interest. And I know that Jim Caviezel, is that right? Has been in the conversation lately because of a podcast about how weird he is, right? And maybe bad he is.
I mean, so he's a tradcath, right?
Is he a tradcath?
Ooh.
Oh, right. Because he had that experience doing Passion, right? Fuck Mel Gibson, get fucked.
Yeah.
But Jim Caviezel did Passion of the Christ, and it I've seen quotes from him about that are wild. Anyway, but he's in Person of Interest. But you like Person of Interest quite a bit, right?
I do. I think it stays too long at the fair. I don't think it can stick the landing. But
that only gets 5 seasons. That's not even a 6-season show. So,
but man, it's classic. Like first season, you're like, this is pretty rote. I don't know that it's particularly interesting, but it starts doing some interesting things with the concept. Second and third seasons are like just out of this world good.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a definite endorsement. I'm trying to think. I started watching a bit last year. I started watching NYPD Blue again. A better cop show than I remembered. And what's weird is, so that is a show that is basically centering on a pretty racist NYPD cop.
Yeah.
And the funny thing, though, is that watching it, I was kind of struck by the fact that show was able to look these things in the eye in the way I think a lot of modern cop shows just do not at all. They avoid it at all costs. One of the interesting things about NYPD Blue is like right there in the opening first season, it's like a lot of these cops are either bad cops, bad people, or bad coworkers. And it's watching those frictions play out that's kind of compelling. But I don't I do wonder how that goes down with modern audiences. But I was kind of struck by wow, this show often went really interesting places and went there smartly. And it was kind of cool seeing that. I think it's the rare show that that was a cop procedural that aired for ages. And going back, it's easy to think those things just get rote and boring. Going back, I was like, shit, it was actually pretty good.
I want to say about Grimm, I've seen probably 10 episodes of that show, maybe a few more than that. I kind of want to go back and watch Grimm. Grimm is...
I was so close to picking that up.
I've been thinking about it. It's a 6-season show, NBC. Monster of the Week show about a dude who descends from a line of monster hunters and can start to see the monsters in the world. It's like Buffy, but it's like a Pacific Northwest cop show, basically. It's probably been a decade since I've seen any of this show, or 8 years or something like that. And it is very B-movie Monster of the Week in terms of its costume and creature design. I don't necessarily know that the mythology is really there in the episodes that I saw, but there was something really charming about the cast. It might just be a good show to put on in the background. It might be propaganda. It's been a minute since I watched the show about the cop who kills monsters, which is a very loaded thing. I don't know if he stays on as a cop. He might end up being, I think the cops might get monstered. The cops might be invaded by monsters, like they've taken over.
Damn. Grimm anticipated the way the Discord would change. Discourse.
Yeah, and so I might give it a shot. I might go back to it. Let us, if you go back to it, let us know.
What are vampires?
Are there any Grimm stands? Say that again.
What are vampires if not a cop union?
Right, exactly. I think it is. I will say, I do think Grimm is run by a previous Buffy person, right? It's like a Buffy, producer who launched the show as an attempt to make Buffy Part 2, So, because I was talking about this online late one night a couple weeks ago with Sin Vega and Sam Greer, if anyone ever, it might be hard to find these days, but Due South, the Paul Gross Canadian Mountie comes to Chicago to solve crimes show, always struggled. Secretly a very good show. Yeah. It has a weird midway through. It has to change its entire cast because it was canceled, I think, by CBS and went into a syndicated model. So a lot of the cast broke up, and they they do this really weird thing where they lampshade it, and they're like, "Hey, this is the different. Why is a completely different actor playing the same character?" And the answer is it's a different person, but he's inhabiting the same character, and the show acknowledges this, and it's weird and really divisive, but they end up making it work, and worse. It's a land of contrasts, but yeah, cult hit. Great. All right, we should watch this thing that Cado's linked. I've seen this thing. Y'all have not seen this trailer?
No.
Right? No. Okay. There's a better link than this one, Cado, because this one takes you to the website. Where is one second? I'll find the good one.
I just got an ad. Olympic channel. Here we go. Okay.
So I'm going to this Olympics website.
And then hit pause immediately once you're past the ad.
Okay. I'm ready.
Is everyone ready?
Yep.
Hold on.
Ready for the Nagano tapes.
So where am I? I'm clicking through this?
People keep sending us the Nagano tapes. Yeah, click through on that link.
That sounds like some found footage movie from 1999.
Okay, so now I'm on a YouTube
Blair Witch
page.
Project came out.
And it's got the...
You're on a YouTube page? You're not on Olympics.com?
Yeah, I am.
You've got a video player.
Yeah. Just wait for
so there should be a trailer and then hit pause as soon as that ad ends. The Nagano tapes, the inspiring story of how Czech Republic won gold at the first Olympics to feature professionals from the NHL. That's spoilers.
Okay.
Are we all ready?
Yeah.
Y'all haven't seen this, promise.
No.
Okay. No. I can enjoy it in another way then. 3, 2, 1, go. Olympic Channel. And now we're just getting the Olympic Channel intro, which is not the
Frank
actual
Marshall.
intro.
Torch. Nagano
Ring
was
films.
a good Olympics.
All right, here we go. I'm very curious who recognizes it first.
So we're all synced up. It's currently splitting into frames.
Yeah, there's a person holding a torch. Yeah.
Yep.
Some huskies running.
This music sounds very familiar.
NHL players at the Olympics for the first time ever. Watching some hockey. People are running up the stairs with a torch.
Their countries have broken apart, but surely the dream.
Some context on
what?
Russia, the Czech Republic.
I think I'm ahead of you.
Wait.
Yeah, you just hit it. Yeah.
What? What?
Excuse me? Even I know what this is.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is going?
The
Wait, we're getting cards about the history of the Czech Republic being oppressed by the Soviet Union.
Wait, are you still not? Like Robin hasn't hit yet?
No, the music. I'm on the music, dude.
Yeah, you're on a Cool Angels thesis at this point.
Yeah,
you're on this real Olympics.
I'm seeing Soviet invasion. Oh, did they use the font?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Look at the way they're cutting it. It's just cut like the intro.
Soviet invasion.
Oh
wait, here's the chorus.
Mayhem. Oh my god.
Repression. It is just cut like the intro to Ava.
What is going on?
They're doing the history of Czech hockey set to Cool
Hockey
Angels
riots.
thesis. Hockey riots. Yeah.
Turns out, Steven Spielberg partner Frank Marshall just like secretly a big Ava head.
The years cutting forward is very good. They're not enough to
The B-roll they're running is not as good.
Capitalism. Frustration.
Wow, this
1998.
thing looks cool as hell.
Nagana.
Yeah.
More
Not enough.
documentaries should open with this format is my takeaway.
Yeah.
Did someone say what was popular in Japan in 1998?
Right.
Oh, Ava was still popular in Japan in 1998.
Or did someone really just pull one on like an entire group of people?
That would be the best.
Where they just keep suggesting little I think if we did it this way, also this music, it really seems to go with it, right?
Doesn't
I know
it? It just catches something.
Yeah, like it really bops with and like, oh, look at this font. Like
Patrick, can you track down whoever made this decision and interview them?
Who directed this?
Good question.
I'll work on this. If you out there,
So wait, is this a new documentary or an old one
I found the
that's just being
person.
surfaced?
I found the person. Here we go. It's Andrzej Hudacek. It took me 3 years, but I finally made anime Twitter go nuts. This seems to be the person who made this decision, which is great.
oh, that's you
got to reach out.
Fantastic.
So wait, is this
They
a
have
new
open
documentary?
DMs,
Or did it just go fly under the radar?
This is a new. I thought this was a new documentary. I was pretty sure. Oh wait, no, is it not? Huh? Because I found a post on Reddit from 3 years ago, 2018, saying Olympic hockey documentary parodies of Evangelion opening.
That's why this tweet says it took me 3 years,
Right.
but I finally it just got discovered.
It just finally hit.
Oh man, this is a good potentially viral blog post.
You gotta hit this person up. 2018. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm the person to write this, but someone else is gonna. Gita might be writing this story.
There's an
They have
entire
open DMs.
genre, by the way. Like, you make a documentary about like international hockey teams that fucking hate Russia. Like, the list of grudges that follow the end of the Soviet Union is just endless. I want to say, like, in the same Olympics, or maybe the one before that, Finland versus Russia was one of the most vicious fucking games I've ever seen. And remember, international hockey, they don't let you fight. And so, like, if it's going to be a bloodbath, it's because they're, like, still playing hockey within the rules. They're just laying people out.
I guess it's funny, before we wrap up, something happened during this podcast that you'll have already heard about, which is that we got the green light to mention a thing which you've already now heard about, because we will have, immediately after finishing this podcast, we'll have then recorded a new additional bit for the intro that Cado has expertly cut in, as if you didn't even know it. But I just want to capture the energy of being told live that it seems as if the switch is being flipped on our subscription page. Ka-chunk. Ka-chunk. There was the HBO, like, as it turns on. That's a fun sound.
Or there's like a real satisfying sound in like Resident Evil Village when anytime Ethan has to like move like a lever.
It's whenever he picks something up, it makes the jump scare noise. Yeah. And there aren't jump scares in that game in that way, really. Instead it's just every time he picks up a thing, it's like, blah! And if we could just get that added to the Waypoint Plus page, that would be great. Anyway, I guess I'll.
The point is, Waypoint is now a blue room.
We're right, exactly. Yes, Waypoint is a blue room.
Well, you can help us turn it blue.
You can help us.
We need to find all the subscribers to turn it blue.
That's right. You can do that by going to waypoint.zone/subscribe. We've already heard us do a spiel up top, but I'll reiterate that I really appreciate everyone's support and everyone who's asked us for years to do something like this. Let's show the people advice that we can kind of blow their expectations out of the water. That would be huge for us, especially now going into E3 season and all of that. So thank you again for your support over the years. I'm not going to reiterate too much because I know we'll have said a bunch at the top of this podcast, but having now captured the energy live, I want to share that with y'all. On that note, again, you can send us emails to gaming@vice.com, and you can follow us, twitter.com/waypoint, waypoint.vice.com, waypoint.zone/subscribe, twitter.com/Austin_Walker. Patrick, how about you?
You can follow me at Patrick. Also, when you were talking about shows, that like one came to me at the very end when we pivoted. I just want to say the 4400, which was a sci-fi show that ran at USA for about 4 years. It's like one of the first acting appearances by I don't want to screw up his name. He was in Green Book, the much maligned Oscar winner from
Mahershala Ali.
Yes, correct.
Nailed it. I didn't want to. It was not even one that I wanted to attempt because I would just completely botch it. So thank you. He's one of his first acting appearances. The premise of the show is a bunch of people just like disappear and then reappear in our present, and they were plucked over the course of like hundreds of years. They went to the future.
It's like all the UFO abductees come back at once, right?
Yes, come back with like different X-Men powers.
There's one. Also, the X-Files is a long-running show that I've watched so little X-Files.
You could just watch the first 6 seasons and probably be okay.
And be done. All right. Well, good one. Cado, where can people find you?
Shit. @A_Cado_appear. Sorry, I tried to pull up the Romaji like transliteration of Cruel Agent's thesis and was gonna go through a couple lines of that instead of saying my Twitter because I thought that'd be funny. And then I didn't because I opened the thing. And hold on, sorry, this is gonna take a second for me to put this screenshot in here.
What? Okay, yeah, of course. Cruel Angel's thesis goes, Zankoku na tenshi no yuni shonen yo. It actually slows down. It goes, shonen yo, shinwa ni nare. And then, I'm a real street Boston nigga. Ali kaze ga amamune. That's how it goes, right?
That's how it goes.
Ohenderu anada shit, nigga Boston shit. Yeah, of course.
So wait.
Oh, fuck.
Cruel Angel's thesis is just townie rap?
Yeah, townie rap. Yeah, that's right.
You know, Rob, this is just what they sing when Tom Brady scores a touchdown at a Patriots game.
That's what they sing. A little preview from the next More Civilized Age. There's a character who has Pats Fan 1 written on them in the Star Wars language, written on their backpack, and I'm still mad about it.
What?
I'm still mad about it.
That's a bad Easter egg.
It sucks.
Oh man, Tampa Bay sounds like a Star Wars character.
Tampa Bay is definitely a Star Wars character. Tampa Bay, 100%.
Oh, Jedi Master Tampa Bay is here.
Tampa Bay fights with a very peculiar style. Where can people find you, Rob?
Can you deflate a lightsaber? Yeah, you can find me.
Did you see that, by the way? Can we?
Wait, so what? I've been hearing there's some drama.
The reveal about who came to defend. Well, I guess it's allegedly.
And this is also
the Arlen Specter thing.
Ghostwriter of the late senator. Yes. Basically, that it was Trump behind closed doors who got the Spygate inquiry dropped, the Patriots
was trying to
intervened.
Yeah, but this is the thing.
Right,
this is like this is classic pre-presidential Trump, where he's just trying to insert himself in shit and be like, "Oh, my boy Tom Brady, I'm going to help him out. I'm going to use my considerable influence that I don't have yet to like." And then this famous person
Trump
will
denies
be obligated to me.
Also, to be clear, Trump's people deny it. To be clear, but I don't doubt that he got in there. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that maybe some money changed hands.
Press agent to file stories with like New York tabloids about how awesome Donald Trump was. Like this is who he is.
Yep, totally. So, I don't know. I feel like there's a world in which he threatens not to give some cash or whatever. I'd believe it, is all I'm saying. Not his worst crime, certainly.
But it's the lack of prosecution for the early crimes that set up the big ones. This is all going to come out now that the grand jury has been called. Prosecute something.
Oh, it's going to happen.
Now that it's safe.
That's going to do it for us this week. Thank you again for your support. I hope everyone has a great weekend. There will probably we're not sure if there's going to be something in the feed on Tuesday or not, because we have off on Monday for the holiday. There might end up being something. There might not end up being something. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. So I hope everyone has a good, safe weekend and is able to rest and take some time for themselves. Until we talk to you next time, fuck capitalism. Go home. Peace. Waypoint.zone/Bowen for the music.
Oh, yeah. The music.
I forgot. Shout out to Bowen. Miss you.
Dropkick Murphy's cover of Cruel Angel's Thesis When.
I bet there is the equivalent of that out there.
Yeah, someone has done that.
Yeah. That style, though. The thing is that, yes, there's a rock style.
Ska bands cover anime intros.
Yeah, but I mean, look, you have to try to find a ska band that doesn't try to cover that. That's the real challenge. But
but the Dropkick Murphys have that Celtic punk whatever thing going on, and so that's what you need.
Danny can complain about it. He's like, that's not real Irish music. It's like, no, it's Boston Irish music, Danny. That's the point. They all think they're Irish.
That's Danny O'Dwyer. They all think they're Irish. Jesus Christ. You live up there. They're going to find you.
I'm Irish to the same extent. I'm like, yes, I too had I had an Irish grandparent.
Right. Sure.
It's cool.
Yeah. I get it. Be careful. Real street Boston niggas up there. They don't say it like that. They do say it like that, just only when different people are in the room.
But hang on. Like, one of Dropkick's most famous songs is how Boston is full of tough guys who are just fronting.
But that's that's a Bruce Springsteen. Born in the USA. No one actually listens to the lyrics.
Yeah, no, definitely true.
So that's just how it is. All right, that's it for the episode. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Also, Dropkick did some good covers of labor songs.
Sure, yeah. I believe that.
Yeah,
it's a cool band. I like them. They're not as cool as the Pogues, who are a legit great band.
Right.
Now, the Pogues, mashing up Mexican and Irish music, I'm obligated to ride or die for. Because that's just me.
Yeah.
That's me.
That's just you. Uh-huh. Let's do top of the minute.
Yep.
Got one clap.
We all clap? Just me. Can other people not hear me?
No, everyone clapped on video.
Oh, we did all clap. Okay.
But I only heard one clap.
Heard one. I got you.
Yeah.
I had all tabbed away, so I did not see.
Clap.
One vice, one clap. That's right. All right. This is actually I do hope that we get to announce this.
Yeah.
This I just
we just keep delaying, then we can fulfill the prophecy.
Exactly. What's good, Internet? It is Friday, May 28th, and you are listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 400. I'm your host, Austin Walker. I was expecting a pop. I was expecting someone to be like, yo, 400. Wow,
you needed to get. I don't keep track of these numbers. You needed to tell us.
I said 400.
I
thought
know,
there'd be a
but
reaction.
like that, I'm just supposed to summon immediately like a balloon drop in my.
That would have been great. Yeah, Patrick Klepek joining us, Ricardo Contreras, Rob Zachney, unfazed, unperturbed by the number 400.
Just dropping a Kleenex. That's all I got.
Well, I was just thinking, like, it's a nice number. It's a good number, but it's easier to hit when you record twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's inaccurate. I mean,
that's the truth. We have hit 500 podcasts that we've done over the years, right? I wonder what our true number is. Is there a way to tell that in Acast, Cado?
Yeah, how many uploads?
Say how many uploads?
100%.
Can you find that number?
Yeah, let me see. However many podcasts you've done in your life, that's your pod score.
Your pod score.
I don't want to.
Okay, my pod score.
I don't want to.
Oh my god.
I don't think about that.
It drills into my brain. Thousands? It's definitely thousands. I mean, it's
for me, actually, it would be
thousands.
the podcast. This pod score would still be far lower than the article score, which that would be a far more. I'm going back to 14 at that point in terms of like formal bylines. Like
you're done on that one.
When I was 14, I did a lot of just like news grinding. Like so, I would easily say in the tens of thousands at some point.
Yeah. In just the Waypoint Radio feed, there are 587 things there.
That makes sense.
Plus the 20 from Be Good and Rewatch It then. Yeah, it's 20 in there.
Rewatch It.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, some of those are overlap, but that's like 600 things, right?
Yeah.
That's like 600 things. That's 5 years of a podcast. We're coming up on 5 years of this thing. When was the very first one? When was Vice Gaming's newest podcast?
It must have been
new podcast.
Must have been. Did we do it before Jessica was born? She was born in August 25th. I came on a couple of weeks before that. I don't know if we did a podcast before or after.
I found it September 27th.
So it was after. Yeah.
September 27th. It was after you came back. Yeah. So we still got a little while to go before 5 years. But damn. 5 years almost. 4.5 years.
Whew.
No worries. How's everyone doing?